19-year-old Danielle Canavan for stealing $800 from her duffel bag. Danielle denies the charge.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 68 on the calendar in the matter of Whitaker versus Canavan.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Miss Whitaker, the defendant was your best friend, and it is your claim that she stole $800 out of a duffel bag. In that duffel bag was also some sort of hair straightening device, so you're suing her for the value of that. First of all, why was there cash in a duffel bag?
Because we were out all day long, so I left the cash in the duffel bag so that I didn't lose it, because $800 is a lot to have carrying around.
What was $800 doing in your duffel bag?
I had used it to get my car fixed. My boyfriend had lent it to me so I could fix my car.
When did your boyfriend give you $800 to fix your car?
He's over in Iraq right now, so he had sent me his ATM card with his PIN number, so he had let me withdraw the money from the ATM.
Why didn't you leave the money home?
Because I hadn't been home in the time that I had withdrew the money.
Oh, you said, I withdrew the money on approximately 5 separate occasions.
Yes, ma'am.
So what I'm asking you is, why didn't you leave the money home? The answer is not that you weren't home. You were home in between those 5 different days that you deposited the money.
No, ma'am, I was not. I was with Danielle the entire time. I had not been home once.
Over how many days did you withdraw the money?
2, the 13th and the 14th of March.
So you were keeping it in the duffel bag to fix your car?
Yes, ma'am. The duffel bag was at Danielle's house the entire time.
Why are you looking so ridiculously funny?
I'm not. I just think it's funny because it's not. None of it's true. I just know that none of it's true. So I'm just listening to what she's saying.
Who else lives in Danielle's house?
At the time, only her sister's boyfriend.
What's your sister's boyfriend's name?
Zach.
Why was he staying with you?
It's my sister and her boyfriend's house. She moved in when they started dating. Now they're engaged. So
you were staying with them?
Yes, I was living with my sister in Spring Hill.
They weren't living with her. She moved in with her sister and her sister's boyfriend.
Correct.
On what date did you find the duffel bag missing?
The 15th, we'd had a fight. My duffel bag was still at her house. She had spent the night at my house the previous night. We had a fight, so I made her leave, and like 20 minutes after I realized, so I called her and she told me that I wasn't getting it back.
Okay, you made her leave. What did you say to her?
We just got into a fight. We were screaming at each other, and she just left, and I told her, just get out.
What did you say when you called her 20 minutes later?
I just told her that because I had clothes and my hair straightener and everything, I just told her that I needed it all back, and she told me
No, just a second. Did you say anything about cash?
No, ma'am.
You just said my duffel bag is there and I have stuff in it?
Yes.
What did you say? Tell me what you
Just
said.
that my duffel bag was still there and I needed it back.
And what did she say?
She told me that I wasn't going to get it back.
Why did you say that to her?
I did not say that to her.
Yes, you did. There's no
I
question
didn't.
in my mind you said that to her.
No, ma'am, there's no question in my mind that I didn't say it. There was no phone calls. There was about 6 text messages first on the phone, and then it was followed by her calling me and threatening me.
Okay, well,
so
what did the text?
I didn't call her at all.
I didn't say you called her.
Okay.
I didn't say you called her.
No, I know.
You're not paying attention.
I just said
You're
she
not
called
paying
me.
it.
I was just letting you know she was the one that called me.
That's what she said.
Okay. I was just confirming the fact that she was right, that she did call me. Oh, my God.
Something wrong with your affect. Pay attention.
No.
Put on your listening ears. What did you say when she called you and told you about the duffel bag?
She didn't say anything about the duffel bag.
What did she call you for?
She told, when we were previously at her house, she mentioned something.
No. When you had a fight and you left.
Yeah.
Listen to me very carefully. When you had a fight and you left, she called you. That you just told me happened. What did she say when she called you?
She said that to come back to the house that she was going to stab me. It had nothing to do about the duffel bag.
She said, come back to the house because I'm going to stab you?
Yeah. And then after her phone call, I called up her mother and let her know that she called me and said that. This is my best friend since I was about 5 years old. I went to his house. I was crying, upset. It's about 25 minutes back to my sister's house. I didn't want to drive back there upset. I knew, you just don't want to drive when you're upset. So I stopped at his house, and that was about the time she did like 6 text messages. And about 5 minutes after I got to his house, he was actually sitting there when she made that phone call. And then I called her mother, and I actually called the police. And I told them that I didn't have time to do a full report because I had to get back up to my sister's house to have her car back so she could get to work. But I told them that I was scared and that I just wanted to call in and at least let them know and give them the names. And they said, okay.
Where's her duffel bag?
Her duffel bag was still at my house. but it takes about 25 minutes there and back. So I didn't want to go all the way back up there and then come back. Told her
I
she
just
could talk.
asked you a question. Where
Yeah.
was the duffel bag?
It was still at my house.
And what happened when you got to your house?
Got to my house. My sister used her car, and I stayed there.
What did you do with the duffel bag?
It stayed there. I didn't touch the duffel bag.
How did your sister get hold of her hair straightener?
Because I lived there. About 2 days later, I moved out, and I left it there by accident. And my sister
Just a
hadn't
second.
brought it back yet.
Okay.
But I don't.
How did your sister get her hair straightener? Because I read your answer.
Because
What?
I lived with her.
Well, what was she doing going into the duffel bag? Was she a thief?
Her and she let me use the straightener before we left to go to
The
her
duffel bag was, the hair straightener was in the duffel
no,
bag.
No, it wasn't. It was in my bathroom plugged in because right before we left to go hang out with a few of our friends, go back towards her house, we did our hair, so it was left in my bathroom plugged in.
Is
And
that
we turned
correct?
it off.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. So now where's the duffel bag?
On my rack in my bedroom because I didn't have a closet. I had a rack with my clothes on it, so it was on the bottom rack.
So who stole her money?
There was no money in it.
Oh, yeah, she's going to show me proof that she took money out.
Oh, I bet she did take money out, but there was no cash in the duffel bag.
How do you know that?
One, because
How do you know that?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I'm very reluctant to make a judgment that somebody took property, because to label somebody a thief, as far as I'm concerned, is a very serious thing.
And later today,
One night we hung out and had relations.
When was it?
About January 15th.
I assume that either you were disappointed with January 15th or you found his behavior somewhat bizarre.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Elizabeth Whitaker claims former friend Danielle Kahneman stole $800 from her duffel bag. Danielle says Elizabeth spent the $800 on drugs.
Madam, I asked you a simple question. You're giving me all kinds of
doesn't
mumbo
make sense
jumbo.
to me.
How did you know there was no cash in the duffel bag?
Because my friend Sam called me up and said that Beth was calling her up to ask her for cocaine. I was worried about it, and that's when I called her boyfriend. But she was my best friend. If there was cash in her duffel bag, don't you think she would have said something to me when she asked me to bring back the duffel bag?
Not if you had just had a fight.
Okay, well, 3 weeks after, when she actually came and picked it up, she never said one word to my mom or anything about the cash either. I have not heard one thing about cash.
Well,
ever.
when for the first time did you hear about cash?
When I got served, when I found out about
When
this.
was the first time, Miss Whitaker, that you advised anybody that there was cash in that duffel bag?
I had told my mother, and the night that she had called my mother had questioned her about the money in the bag.
Could you stand up, please? Mrs. Whitaker?
Yes,
You spoke to the defendant?
yes.
When?
The night they had the fight.
Tell me about the conversation.
She called me, actually, to get a number out of Beth's phone that she wanted.
What
when
did she say to you? Tell me what she said.
That's exactly what she said. Can you get a number out of the phone for me?
Whose number was it?
I don't know. I didn't ask her.
Go ahead.
And I said to her, Danielle, what happened to the money? And she launches into this big thing that she didn't even know Beth had any money, and if Beth never told her there was any money. And I said, Danielle, she's been with you for the last 3 or 4 days. You're the only one she's been with. I didn't take her to the bank, so you must have.
What did she say?
She said, well, the only thing I can think of is that I stopped at the grocery store and Beth wanted to wait in the car, and that's when she must have done it. And I said, Danielle, that doesn't make any kind of sense. And she says, well, you know, Beth hasn't been making any sense lately. She's been acting really crazy, and that's what people on drugs do. And she goes on to tell me that we can get her help and that we can get her into rehab. And I said, Danielle, what happened to the money? And Danielle said to me, well, the drug dealer must have it. And I said, well, you must have taken her to the drug dealer because I know I didn't. And then she said, well, I don't know how she got to the drug dealer. And then she says to me that she contacted Beth's boyfriend, Richard. She said that she and Richard had been friends for a long time and she wasn't going to let this come between her, you know, affect her and Richard's friendship. And she said that she called Richard and set up a 3-way conversation, and Beth didn't know that Richard was on the other line. And she said that she confronted Beth about spending the money on drugs, and she said that she just couldn't believe that Beth had spent $800 of Richard's money on drugs. And I said to her, Danielle, how did you know it was $800? And she said, because Richard told me. And I said, Danielle, Richard's in Iraq. He doesn't have a cell phone. You couldn't have called him. Then she said that her mother was trying to call her and she would call me back, and needless to say, I never heard from her again.
You still have the boyfriend in Iraq?
Yes, ma'am.
you have something you want to say to me?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, when she had called, I was there for the conversation, when they had the argument, she came to my house crying, that she was like, I could hear her over the line, she was screaming very loudly at her, like, you know, threatening her. It's like, you need to come back to the house so I can kick you. You know, I'm going to stab you, da-da-da. You know, she came to my house in a wreck. I mean, I couldn't believe, like, what she could probably have said to her to, like, you know,
I can't believe it either. Now you can sit down. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Did you have that conversation with Mrs. Whitaker?
Some of it, yes.
What didn't you say to her?
I don't know
is
what
not
I
an
didn't
answer.
say to her, but I know what I did say to her. She didn't ask me about an actual amount of money. What she asked was, she told me she found some ATM.
So you knew about the, just a second. So you knew about the money, the missing money, listen to me. So you knew about the missing money the same day as it was missing.
I knew that she said she found withdrawal receipts, so I didn't know anything about the duffel bag, cash being in the duffel bag. She just told me she found withdrawal receipts and said that Beth spent some money. I had no idea there would be money at my house. There couldn't have been money at my house, because there was no conversation about that until obviously now.
No,
Her mom
no, there
told
was
me
a
that
conversation about it with her mother the same day that it happened. And
But
usually,
it had nothing to do-
yes, it had to do with that money.
Not with my house, though. She called me up and said that she found withdrawal receipts and she wanted to know if I knew anything about it. I told her no, that I never brought her to the bank, and that's all that I knew.
And you didn't discuss with her a three-way conversation?
No, I don't have her boyfriend's cell phone number.
All I'm asking you is, you didn't discuss a three-way conversation with her?
No.
No, I don't believe you.
Okay.
How's that?
That's
How's
fine.
that? Don't believe you. Okay. I'm very, very reluctant on circumstantial type evidence when other people have access to property to make a judgment that somebody took property. I'm reluctant to do that because to label somebody a thief, as far as I'm concerned, is a very serious thing. There is no question in my mind that you either took it or know who took the money out of her duffel bag. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $800. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
All right, let's go.
Who would have $800 cash in a duffel bag and not come and get it for 3 weeks?
I tried to get everything back, and it was just, she just kept pulling me in circles.
Her boyfriend's away in Iraq. She was spending a lot of time stuck on the computer talking to him.
We did get into an argument about me talking to my boyfriend.
She was just spending more time on the phone with him than she was spending time with me.
I miss him.
I don't know exactly what was going on with the drugs, but if there was something going on, then, I mean, I feel sorry for her.
She's the one with the drug problem.
We were best friends.
I do feel sorry for her, though, honestly, and just, I hope everything works out.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Givens versus Delgado. Step forward, please.
24-year-old Jeffrey Givens is suing his former friend, 21-year-old Sierra Delgado, for a loan to put a down payment on a new apartment.
Mr. Givens, it is your claim that you made a loan to Miss Delgado in the amount of $700. She was a friend of yours. Miss Delgado says that she accepted the $700 from you because she needed some money and it was a gift. How long do you know her?
Your Honor, I have known Miss Delgado since January. I met her at Bartending Academy, and I think that the gift part of that whole story that you just gave me is an utter fabrication.
You have a copy of your check?
Yes, Your Honor. It's a copy of the check and the date when it cleared.
Check is for $1,000, sir. What was the $1,000 for?
Yes, Your Honor. I wanted to pull out $1,000, and she gave me $300 back. So I am suing for $700.
Tell me how it came about, sir, that you knew that she needed $700.
Your Honor, she asked me for money to help pay for her deposit on her new apartment.
When was this?
This was probably January 28th, and I gave the money to her on February 1st.
So you had known her less than a month.
Correct.
Why did you approach him about needing money?
Well, we had met at the Bartending Academy, and we had a friendship going. One night we hung out, and we had relations. After that, you know, I told him I didn't want anything other than a friendship.
Well, when did your relationship with the plaintiff become more than just a friendship?
I would say it was just a one-night stand.
When?
This was in January, the end of January.
Give me the date.
I don't remember the date. We were drinking.
Think about it.
Oh, well, the beginning of January. I'm sorry.
You're testing my patience. Other than bartending school, what else do you do?
I work at 2 restaurants.
And you?
I am a student, Your Honor, and I
Where?
just got out of the Navy, University of San Diego.
Are you a full-time student or a part-time
Your
student?
Honor, I am a full-time student, biology major.
Who supports you?
I support myself, Your Honor. I was in the Navy, and I have money left over. I have loans, and the military is supporting me a little bit with the GI Bill.
Where were you in service?
I served in Japan, and I served in San Diego.
When were you in Japan?
From 2000 to 2004. And I was in San Diego from 2004 to 2006, October 23rd. That's when I got out.
Do you remember the time that you had an intimate relationship with the defendant?
Yes, Your Honor.
When was it?
It was about January 15th, because that was when Bartending Academy was going on.
And was it after that that she said she only wanted to be friends?
Correct. I did want to be in a relationship with her. She didn't want to, so I cut it off. I had a new relationship going when I gave her the money. So I thought, since I was a personal trainer as well, and I thought, since I can't be your significant other or whatever that may be, I would like to be your friend, personal trainer. I tried to help her. When I sat down with her at the Cheesecake Factory, I gave her a goal list. This was my way of a contract. It's not a contract, but I was trying to help her. I bent over backwards for this young lady.
This is my friend Veronica. She was...
How long has she been your friend?
Since junior high. She's one of the first people that I said, you know, hey, I tell her my problems, and I would have had the money by the end of February, but the girl I was taking the contract over with said she wanted it at the beginning of the month. So I wasn't prepared for that, and I sent Mr. Gibbons a text message, hey, how do you get $700 in a day? Just, you know, joking. He was a friend, and he jokingly said, stand on the corner of El Cajon Boulevard.
That's a tease.
Yeah.
Madam, you owe him $700.
I don't owe him any money.
Yes, you do!
He gave it to me as a gift.
No, he gave it to you under false pretenses.
Your Honor, I have...
I'm speaking. If you had already made a decision, Ms. Delgado, that all you wanted was a friendship, if anything, because I assumed that either you were disappointed with January 15th or you found his behavior somewhat bizarre. Either way, I don't care if you go into a homeless shelter. You don't take money from him under false pretenses, and you don't coyly send him a text message, hey, when you know that he wants more from you than you were willing to give him. How do you get $700 in a day? That you may say to your mother or your father. That you may say to your brother or your sister. That you don't say to a guy who is clearly wearing his heart on his sleeve, because that is unkind and cruel and fraudulent. You owe him $700. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think...
Ex-husband James Kern for attorney fees after he falsely accused her of child abuse.
All rise. Now, that's case number 73 on the calendar in the matter of Padilla versus Kern.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Ms. Padilla, this is your ex-husband. You've been divorced since when?
Our divorce was finalized in November of 2004.
And you have one child together?
Yes.
How old is that child?
He's now 5.
I'd like you to keep your voice up, Ms. Padilla, because I have difficulty hearing you. Not because there's anything terribly wrong with my hearing, but I know that you may be a little nervous. You're speaking softly. You have to speak up like me.
No problem.
Great. Make believe you're yelling at him.
Shouldn't be a problem.
Your lawsuit alleges that Mr. Kern filed false allegations against you with Child Protective Services, forcing you to hire an attorney. You want your attorney's fees back and the expenses that you incurred as a result of defending that litigation. Mr. Kern says he had legitimate concerns over his child, and that's why he made the report. Okay? Do you have other children?
One.
How old?
Same age. A little older by a few months.
Who does that child live with?
Her. I didn't know of his existence till long after he was born. It's quite a story.
Well, it's quite a story, but it has an age-old beginning.
They're 6 weeks apart.
Another 10.
And I assume you've done the appropriate DNA testing and everything else? Paternity testing?
Correct.
So that while you were married, you fathered another child. Is that right?
No, it was before I was married. Before her and I got married, her and I were together. She told me she had an abortion, so we never talked again. Me and her got back together. And then after, actually the day my son Cameron was born, I get another phone call from her saying, oh, guess what?
Do you see that child?
No.
So that there are no other siblings in your house?
No.
How many children do you have?
I have 2.
How old are they?
They're 7 and 5.
The 7-year-old is not Mr. Kern's child.
No.
When did you and Mr. Kern separate?
In November of 2002.
So the baby was an infant at the time?
Yes, he was.
Was there any issue as far as custody at that time?
At that time, Mr. Kern left, and Cameron did stay with me. And when we did our divorce papers, we decided to do 50-50 custody. And up until this recent event, we did share 50-50 custody.
When you say 50-50 custody, how did that break down in the week?
We would alternate weeks. One week I would have 3 days, he would have 4. The next week I would have 4 days, he would have 3.
So that really required that you live in close proximity to each other.
At the time, I was in Riverside, California, and he was up in Apple Valley, so about an hour away.
So, Mr. Kern, you had your son half the time.
Correct.
But you, I assume, always knew that there would come a time when he went to school and you couldn't have that kind of an arrangement because you can't live an hour away from each other and still do that.
Correct. I offered to put him in private school, and she didn't want that. She lives in Colton.
Just a second. You offered to put him in private school near you.
Correct.
Well, she didn't want him to be at private school near you. Shh, Mr. Kern, because that would mean that she would lose her 50% of the custody time. Sure it would, because if he's in private school near you, of necessity, he has to spend 5 days a week at your house. In any event, she said, no, I want to put him to school where I am, right?
Correct.
She wanted the child to go to school in her location. You wanted the child to go to school in your location. And then the trouble began. So, Mr. Kern, why don't you tell me the timeline from there? She brought papers to you to ask you to sign off so that you could register the child in school.
Yeah, and that if I didn't agree, she wouldn't let me have my son. She was going to leave in the parking lot right then and there. Actually, it started long before that. My son had lots of marks and bruises on him that were questionable. And every time I'd ask her, you know, how did this happen? It was always the same story. Oh, he got playing with his brother, or he got fighting with his brother. One February day, she called me, said, hey, you know, he had a bit of an accident. I don't know if I'm going to take him to the hospital or not. I'm just letting you know. I said, okay, do I need to come down there? You know, I'll take it myself. She said, no. He showed up that weekend, and I have pictures right here. He has a complete black eye. He has a gash in his eye.
I'd like to see it.
And these are some other pictures of bruises and marks on him from when he's come from her house. Hand marks, bruise on his shoulder, other marks on his face from different times. And I took those pictures to my attorney, asked them what they think I should do, and that's when I took that to the court.
I wouldn't say a word if I were you. You are no relation to this case.
That's my wife.
I understand exactly who it is, sir. I understand exactly who it is, and if you want the situation with your son to ultimately resolve itself, I would suggest that she let you do the talking. That's the problem. Well, see, black and blue marks on his arms.
I also have a video that I think you need to see that's important in this case.
Oh, this is his leg.
This is just one of 100 times of how he acts when he goes back to his mother. And I think it's very important that you see this video right here.
Sure.
And after my attorney told me, you know, after I took that to court for next court.
Don't tell me what your attorney told you, sir. What your attorney told you was hearsay.
All right, here we go, guys.
Cameron, come on, baby. Hey, the sooner you go with your mommy, the sooner I get to come get you and we get to Christmas. Come on, honey. Cameron. Come on, it's time to go with your mommy, honey. Don't do that. Come on. Mommy misses you. She wants to see you. Okay, baby? Come on.
I've seen enough. Turn it off, please.
That's not even the good part. The part where he throws himself on the ground, and I asked, you know, let me talk to him to calm him down. She won't let me. He's banging on the window in her car, you know, screaming for me, and takes off.
I don't understand why you're photographing this.
Well, actually, that was upon her request in the court. She wanted to videotape pickups or drop-offs, so if somebody said something they shouldn't, they could take it to court.
That was at her request? Mm-hmm. Is that right?
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, I have it on the minutes.
I'd like to see it. It's a major concern to me to videotape a child like that, who was clearly as young as he is, playing for the camera. Well, this just says the parties stipulate that the visitation exchanges may be videotaped and audiotaped.
Yeah, she did that because she accused me of bad-mouthing her when I pick up or drop off my son. So the judge said that we can videotape or audiotape the pickup or drop-offs. And they...
Just a second. Then she didn't ask for it. She accused you,
and we went to court.
Mr. Kern, listen to me. I'm really big on two parents getting involved and being integral parts of their children's lives, fathers and mothers. I think it's really important. And I don't know which one of you is a better custodial parent. I really don't know. Sounds to me as if you adore him.
It's my life.
And it sounds to me, based upon the answer that you submitted to me, that you legitimately feel that you are a more fit custodial parent. Maybe. But I'm telling you what I'm seeing. The injuries that you've shown me here are nothing compared to what my kids had when they were growing up.
But if your kid came home
Broken
with on
arms,
his face or something,
broken
would you not be
arms,
concerned?
jumping off the beds with their siblings, banging heads, getting hit in the face with a lacrosse stick. All kinds of things happen to children, especially children who have a close in age sibling.
But then where's the supervision?
Excuse me?
If something like that happens to his face because he was fighting with his brother, where was the supervision?
Can't supervise children all the time, Mr. Kern. What planet are you living on, sir?
This one. These things don't happen at my house. I have 2 full-grown German Shepherds. He has his own bike. He has everything in the world a kid could ever want. And these things don't happen in my home.
Mr. Kern, what you don't have in your house is another child.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
And nowhere in that report does he say, my mommy hits me, my mommy beats me.
No, but it does talk about domestic violence, about how her boyfriend hits her and she hit him back. And that's from what he's seen.
Crystal Padilla claims the father of her child, James Kern, falsely accused her of abuse to Child Protective Services. She is suing for her attorney fees.
The only issue in this case, as far as I'm concerned, is do these pictures of marks on the child give him sufficient reason for him to have placed a call to Child Protective Services to investigate?
I never called Child Protective Services. I just filed an ex parte hearing saying, for my concerns about those marks. I never called CPS not once.
Just a second. So you filed a proceeding, an ex parte proceeding, for what?
To get custody of my son so we could find out what was going on. I have letters here from a psychotherapist.
Just a second. So you had 50-50 custody, and based upon these photographs, you went to court through your attorney and filed an ex parte order seeking physical custody full-time of your child based upon these photographs.
And letters from a psychotherapist that interviewed my son to find out where the marks were coming from, which I have these right here as well.
So while the child was with you, in addition to taking these photographs, you took him to a psychologist.
Yeah, upon my attorney's advice.
Listen, Mr. Kern, I was there for 25 years. I know exactly what's going on, sir. I know precisely what's going on. Now, when did you file your ex parte proceedings, sir?
End of April '06.
And when did Miss Padilla tell you that she wasn't going to allow you to enroll the child in private school in your area?
She served me on my first wedding anniversary, which was March 12th, '06, and that's where the court
Just
papers
a second.
began.
So in March of '06, Miss Padilla served you with papers seeking what?
That she wanted him to go to school in her area, which is Colton.
So she served you with papers in March of '06. And in April of '06, you saw an attorney, brought photographs, and at that point filed your own ex parte order for an immediate transfer of custody based upon allegations of abuse. Is that right?
According, yes.
I'm getting the timeline here.
Upon my attorney's advice.
That wasn't his first response to my petition. His original response noted nothing of physical abuse.
Okay. Then he took these pictures that he had been saving up and storing up since December of 2005.
That's not true.
I,
on my first response, noted a lot of things. The fact that she lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with her sister and her 2 children, with her other son and my son. My son coming to my house telling me he sleeps on the couch with his brother while she sleeps in her room with her boyfriend.
Mr. Kern, how much support do you pay for that child support?
Which one?
That lady's child.
$250.
$250 or what?
A month.
Pay it every month?
Nope.
So you don't pay child support?
Not every month. Sometimes I get behind on bills and stuff. I can't make the payment.
He hasn't paid in over 3 years.
Yes, I have.
I'm getting there. And how much child support do you pay now for this child?
I believe it was $400 a month if she took him to school. I let my employer have the information, and I don't think they've started that yet.
So how much do you pay her?
$400 a month or something like that. I don't quite
$400.
recall.
Well, the employer hasn't started deducting it from your salary yet. So how much do you give her every month?
Nothing.
Why?
Because if I give it to her, she'll never report it.
But in between the time that the child support order takes place, sir, and they start with the income deduction order, months could go by before that happens. So how do you expect your child to be supported? Okay, so now you have 2 children, and if I am correct, from what you tell me, Mr. Kern, who you want me to believe you're father of the year, you have 2 children for whom
I'm not father
you are
of the year.
currently paying 0 child support. And this from a man who said, I want to put my son in private school near me.
I had 50% custody at the time.
No,
Actually, I had
listen to
more.
me. Listen to me. This is from a man who said, I want to pay for private school. And now you tell me that you have 2 children, 5 years old, for whom you are currently paying nothing in child support.
That's not every month. Just because she hasn't received hers yet, that's the child support agency, not my fault. I'm not going to give it to her and have her deny it.
You got where we're going? He thinks he's a step ahead of me. I was there for 25 years, Mr. Kern. I know exactly what's going on. Exactly. Well, let's finish the scenario. You went to court. You had a lawyer. Did you have a lawyer?
On the Monday, I went to...
Just answer my question. Did you have a lawyer?
On our next court date, we did.
And the child's custody was immediately transferred to the father.
For
Is
the
that
month
right?
pending.
Just answer my question.
Yes.
For how long did Mr. Kern have custody?
Until May 17th of 2006.
And then what happened?
That was our original court date, and we went to mediation.
When you went back to mediation, was a forensic expert assigned to the case?
No.
We were assigned to do a 7:30 evaluation.
And what was the name of the therapist who was doing the evaluation?
Dr. Michael.
You have a copy of that report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it. So as a result, I assume, at least in part of the forensic evaluation, the court determined that the custody arrangement that you originally agreed to was not workable.
Correct.
Is that right? And ultimately, primary physical custody was ordered to you.
Yes, it was.
And the court granted you visitation 3 weekends a month. Is that right?
Big drop from having them half the time, huh?
Absolutely right, sir. You're supposed to be smart enough to know that whatever custody arrangement you make when a child is 2 is not going to be able to hold true when the child is 6 or 8 or 10 or 12. And you're supposed to be able to work with each other. And just because you got angry that she wasn't going to allow you to have your way...
How's that right? These pictures were started being taken in December, beginning of December, when she filed in March. So how is it I got mad and all of a sudden, magically appeared some pictures in December? These are concerns I've had for a while.
Either that, sir, or you don't understand what it's like to be a 5-year-old with a 7-year-old sibling, with a black and blue mark on the knee, with a scratch above the eye, with a black and blue mark on the hand, with scrapes across the face. Happens. It happens. And nothing that I read in this report suggested, absolutely nothing, that your child complained that any of those marks were as a result of his mother's actions.
I have some other letters here that you should read then.
Absolutely.
There is also a section about her in the 7:30 evaluation, the psychotherapist that wrote the letters that he's showing you now. And nowhere in that report does he say, my mommy hits me, my mommy beats me.
No, but it does talk about domestic violence, about how her boyfriend hits her and she hit him back.
Listen,
and that's from what he's seen.
The problem, Mr. Kern, is that you really are going to have to back off in interfering with what goes on in her house.
If your child sees domestic violence, should I not be concerned?
What I'm telling you is you have to back off as to what goes on in her house. You're not supposed to ask your son anything about what goes on in her house.
The therapist asked him that.
I didn't say the therapist. I said you're not supposed to ask him anything about what goes on in his house. And she's not supposed to ask him anything about what goes on in your house. You're both supposed to assume that each of you love him and want to take care of him and want to protect him and do the right thing. That's what you're supposed to assume. And you, Mr. Kern, are supposed to pay child support for that child, for this child, who you now don't have in your custody. I mean, I read the report, and the report indicated that when this forensic evaluation was done, your son says you don't work, and you're home all the time.
No, I'm a contractor, so I choose my own hours.
That's what he says. He says, my father doesn't work.
Well, I make sure I'm home when he's there.
I'm telling you what your son says, sir.
I know what he says, and I'm going to
explain
it to you.
My father doesn't work. Well, that's not a good thing for a child to even think that his father doesn't work. That's what he said. Told the
Well, that's
therapist,
because he's
my
5 years
father
old. He thinks a magic wand pays the bills. Just because I go out of my way to make sure I'm home when he's there so we can spend time together. I work when he's not with me.
If you have him with you 4 days a week, sir, you should be working
It's
part
not
of that
4
time.
days a week.
That's what you told me.
I'm not home
You told
4
me
days
that
a week.
you had
It could be 3 days a week
50-50
one
custody.
Week. It could be 3 1 week. It could be 2 if my
Mr.
wife's
Kern,
off.
you've got an
she
answer
watches
for
him.
everything, sir. What you're asking me for is counsel fees. That's what you're asking me for.
Right.
Counsel fees. And I'm not granting those. Because he went to an attorney. I just want you to think about this. He went to an attorney and sought the advice of counsel who represented him when you filed an application to terminate the 50-50 custody arrangement. So you filed the petition first. He had to hire a lawyer. And he just said, I'd rather be on the offensive rather than on the defensive because that's his temperament.
Well, he didn't consult an attorney first. He stated that my father told him to take me to court.
No, I didn't.
He went... Listen, did he have an attorney representing him?
At the ex parte hearing, he did, yes.
Did he have the attorney representing him in the case that you filed?
No.
I'm talking about the original date in May, because that you said was the original court date you had on your application. Did you have an attorney or not?
Yes.
I believe he had an attorney. His attorney started the process, so the attorney of necessity had to be with him. You don't get your counsel fees. It's unfortunate that both of you spent your money on legal fees, but you don't get your counsel fees, just like he doesn't get his. But he's better start to pay child support.
They can't find any child support because I've received a 2-cent check since the child support was ordered.
That is not true.
Well,
Here you go.
if he doesn't pay the child support order, what I'm going to suggest you do is go to the court and ask to have his driver's license suspended. You too. The first thing that states have to do under federal guidelines is take away his driver's license. And as a contractor, he needs that. Otherwise, his wife is going to have to drive herself to work and him to work. Don't let him get away without paying child support. That's his obligation as a parent, to you and to you, and to your children. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Your case is dismissed. He's not required to pay your counsel fees. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Sorry, out the back door to your right.
Because I started questioning her parental abilities,
The evaluation said he was the unfit parent and not me
and that's where it all blew up.
because nothing is happening.
Your ex-boyfriend, 26-year-old Matthew Heckroth, for crashing her Chrysler LeBaron while intoxicated. Matthew claims it was Melissa who crashed the car.
Order. All rise. Yeah, it's case number 82 on the calendar in the matter of Garbalinski versus Heckroth.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Ms. Garbalinski, this gentleman used to be your boyfriend. You lived together for a period of time. It is your claim that while drunk, he drove your car and crashed it.
That is
and
true.
also endangered your child, who he took with him. Mr. Heckroth says it was you who drove the car, probably had a blackout and don't remember, crashed the car, and are now blaming it on him. How long did you live together?
About 4.5 months.
In your home or his home?
Yes, in my home. I paid all the bills.
Okay. What kind of work do you do, Mr. Heckroth?
I'm a detailer at a car wash
How long have you been detailing cars?
since January.
How old are you?
I'm 26.
Prior to January, Mr. Heckroth, when you started detailing cars, what were you doing? It's not an answer.
I can't remember.
Well, it's not so long ago. Do you suffer from any debilitating disease?
No,
Then what were you doing prior to January?
I did nothing.
What do you want to be when you grow up, Mr. Heckroth?
Actually, there's a couple things. A correctional facility guard or an animal cop for Houston or Detroit.
And what are you doing to further that career goal?
I have every GED book there is, and I study on my time off.
So you have to get your GED first.
Yes,
All right, Ms. Garbalinski, tell me when this incident happened with your car.
This happened about March 12th.
Now tell me what happened on or about March 12th with your car.
Well, Matthew had some friends over, and they were sitting in the living room. I told him I was going to bed about 10 o'clock.
What were the names of his friends who were over?
Jenny and Lance.
Okay, go ahead.
And I told him that I was going to sleep because I take sleeping pills for insomnia. So I took a sleeping pill and went to bed. My son was in his room playing video games. I woke up the next morning and saw that my car was smashed. I walked in the house and asked him what had happened. And he hesitated for a minute and he said he didn't want to tell me because I had to get up early in the morning, and he smashed the car.
that is a lie.
Don't speak, Mr. Heckroth.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I asked him how it happened. He said that he took off with my car last night with my son, which I'm very upset about because my son could have been injured.
Where did he go? Where did he tell you?
He went to drop off his friends.
Okay. Put your hand down. You'll come to your turn, Mr. Heckroth.
Okay.
I wish you were so vigorous about finding a future.
Okay, that is a...
Go ahead.
And when I woke up in the morning, I saw that my car was smashed. I asked him what had happened.
You told me that already.
Okay.
I have a very good memory. Heckroth doesn't have a good memory, but I have a good memory. Okay, so
And that's about what happened.
can I see pictures of the car, please?
Yes, you may.
Mr. Heckroth, what are the last names of these two people, Jenny and Lance?
The last name of Lance is Quintel. He's my cousin.
And Jenny?
And Jenny is her friend, so that's a lie, Your Honor. She was there that night, too, but it was her friend.
Okay.
And I would never drive with a kid in the car. That's absurd. Okay.
Now, Lance was your friend,
My cousin, yes.
your cousin. And how did he get to your house?
He,
Look at me.
Yes, he walked that night.
Walked. What's his telephone number?
989-04.
So he walked to your house from where?
I don't know where he came from. He he lived down the road, or I'm not sure how he got there. But he stayed the night that night.
And where did he stay when he stayed the night?
On the couch.
So he was there in the morning?
Right.
Does he work?
No. He just had surgery on his arm.
What kind of surgery did he have on his arm?
I'm not sure. He had a broken arm. He required a rod put in.
Oh, so he can't drive?
No, he can't.
So he walked from somewhere down the road?
Yes.
Do you know where his cousin lives somewhere down the road? Just answer my question.
He lives all over.
He lives all over. What does that mean?
He is like Matthew.
Sort of falls down wherever he can.
Yep.
Now, Jenny, he says Jenny is your friend.
We were friends, but she pulled a lot of stunts with different people, and I don't care to talk to her anymore. She did come over that night, and her and Lance both went home that night because I told Matthew I didn't want anybody in my house after I went to bed.
So Jenny was your friend?
She was my friend at the time, yes.
Does she have a cell phone?
No, she does not have a cell phone. She has a home phone.
What's her home phone number?
1-989.
Okay. Now, Mr. Heckroth, now you're going to tell me your version of these events.
Okay. I had to work early in the morning that night. So I went to sleep while Melissa, her friend Jennifer, and my cousin partied while her son was in the room. But I was laying in bed awake when she took her friend home. Lance was in the car too. She took her friend Jennifer home, and they said they were going to the bar, but they showed up late that night, and then she woke up the next morning flipping out about her car, which I knew nothing about because I had to be to work that early that morning.
And both Jenny and Lance are going to corroborate the fact that Miss Garbolinski took them home. Is that right?
Yes.
When I called them?
Yes.
Both of them?
Yes. That's why Jennifer was her first witness, but wouldn't come to lie for her.
Why didn't she come to testify for you?
Because I wanted to come by myself.
Why?
Because my first witness couldn't come because of surgery, so I just came by myself.
Why couldn't he come because of surgery?
He has a big rod on his arm and probably just don't feel like it. Didn't feel like coming.
But you asked him to come?
Yes.
And you asked Jenny to come?
No.
Why not?
I don't know. I didn't need Jennifer to come because she took Jennifer home in the car, so I don't know.
All right, let's go find out.
Okay.
Is this Jenny? Jenny? This is Judge Judy Scheinlin. How are you? I have a question to ask you. I'm trying a case, and I want you to think back to March 12th of this year, okay? Do you remember when you were at the Garbolinski-Heckroth home? Okay. How did you get there that evening? You were dropped off. By whom? By Matt. Who took you home? Okay. And was Lance in the car? Were you in the car when the accident occurred? Tell me how the accident occurred. Okay, fine. I appreciate the information. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. You gave me a wrong number, sir. Lance's number. Repeat it again.
989-204.
Wrong number. Belongs to a Connie and Don.
Connie and Dennis, that is his parents that he's staying with because of his arms.
Jenny doesn't seem to remember her in the car at all, sir. Jenny only remembers you in the car. And Jenny can tell me exactly what happened with that accident. Exactly what happened with that accident.
I was not in the car. There was no accident. If there was an accident, there would be a report or...
Not if you were drunk. And not if you were in an accident with a truck. And according to Jenny, the truck driver said no big deal for the truck, and you were just as happy just to drive away because as far as you were concerned, she was driving. Ugh. How old are you?
I am 28, going to be 29 in June.
A, he's too young for you. B, he's too stupid for you. C, you've already clearly made one mistake because you have a 9-year-old child, so that was a relationship that was a mistake, right?
Yes.
You're going to pick somebody else to live with, pick somebody who has a future, who has a life.
Somebody that can help
who's
pay rent.
mature, who's not a baby, and who most of all is not a liar. Now, can I see the estimates on the car, please?
There's 2 different ones there, Your Honor.
Can I say something, please, Your Honor?
Yes.
The pictures are from when she crashed her car. They're not even the right date of the accident.
Oh, well, why don't you tell me what the right date of the accident is?
I have no idea. Because I
For
wasn't
the
driving.
plaintiff for the amount of $2,108. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
They went to the bar after being at the house.
I have a restricted license. I can't drive after 9 p.m.
She really didn't care because she drove the car in the first place.
Obviously, somebody had to drive my car to get in the accident, and it wasn't me.
It's fine. I'm gonna mind my business and move on.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Burr versus Gracia, step forward, please.
Wanda Burr is suing her neighbor, Juanita Gracia, for the cost to fix her car and for vandalism to her home. Wanda says the culprit is Juanita's son, 14-year-old Alberto Lopez.
You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat, please.
Oh, no.
Gentlemen, stand up, please. No, you sit down.
Sit down. All right, Miss Burr, this is your son. Miss Garcia, this is your son. Neither of you were present on the day that Miss Garcia's son was in the driver's seat of your car and caused damage to it.
That's correct.
And that's what this lawsuit is about. You believe that Miss Garcia is responsible for her son's actions and should pay for the damage to your car. Miss Garcia says that it wasn't her son's fault, that your son was there the whole time, and if you want to hold somebody responsible, you should hold your son responsible. Right? Right. Okay. What's your first name?
Casey McDavid.
I want you to keep the voice up. Are you frightened here today?
No, ma'am.
You're a little nervous?
No, ma'am.
I'm going to change that. On what day were you in your mother's car?
He was not in the vehicle, Your Honor.
Where were you?
Me and my friends were on the computer, and I went to the bathroom. I came out. He took the keys off my door, and I seen the car go past the window, and I went out, and I seen him hit the tree.
You saw him.
I seen him get in my car.
Where were the keys?
They were on the door.
Of what room?
Of the front door.
And where's your computer?
In the living room.
The computer's next to the front. Sorry.
Were you there?
No, ma'am.
Keep your mouth closed. So you were on the computer in the living room.
Yes, ma'am.
And where were your friends?
They were on the computer with me.
How many friends?
3.
Who are they?
Alberto, Brandon, and Dwayne.
What's Brandon's last name?
I don't know.
What's Dwayne's last name? Is he still your friend?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
I haven't talked to him
Since when?
since the accident.
And what about Brandon? Have you spoken to him?
No, ma'am.
Why haven't you spoken to them since the accident? Casey.
Ever since the accident, I just lost touch.
Why? They were in the room with you on the computer, right?
Right.
They weren't near the car, so why would you stop being their friend?
I just haven't talked to him in a while.
Okay, now let me hear your version of what happened.
Me, Brendan, and Dwayne were sitting on the living room couch. I was next to Casey looking on the computer with him. Me and Brendan discussed getting in the car and listening to the music, and the keys were on the desk of the computer, not hanging. I took the keys in front of Casey. He didn't say anything. Me and Brendan went into the car, started the car.
Brendan, too?
Brendan was in the car. We started the car and started listening to music. I switched gears in the car in reverse. Casey came out and just stood there and watched us.
Casey came out?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did he say to you?
I don't know if he said anything, but he just stood there watching us. And I backed the car, and I guess...
Why did you do that?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I don't know. He's taken the car out before. It's not like it was the first time he's done it.
He didn't do anything.
Well, that we've done it, he's let us drive before. And I started backing up the car. I was gonna go anywhere, and then Brendan got scared and opened the passenger door and jumped out, and that's when the door hit the tree. I stopped the car and moved it back forward, and we noticed the damages to the car.
So whose fault is this?
Mine.
Perfect. Why didn't you convince your mother of that?
When his mother found out, we all discussed together that we will each take responsibility for it.
Who's each?
Me, Brendan, and Casey. Because
well,
it was...
it's not, just a second. Not Casey's fault. You took the keys. You didn't have permission to take the keys? Brandon, maybe. He was with you, but he didn't drive it. You did. Why is it anybody else's fault but yours?
They didn't stop me.
So let's say you're walking down the street with your mother and you see somebody that you went to school with that you don't like, and you walk past them and you say to your mother, I'm going to punch him in the face. You walk past him, you punch him in the face. Gets hurt. Would that be your mother's fault?
No, ma'am.
Why? She didn't stop you. She didn't stop you. You get it?
Yes, ma'am.
You have anything to say to me, Miss Garcia?
Yeah. The reason I felt that it wasn't all his fault was because all three parties were involved. Casey is older than my child. The key was in his house.
Just a second. How much older is he?
2 years older than him.
So what?
No, but he had possession of the keys.
No, he didn't. He didn't have possession of the keys.
They've done.
If he had the keys in his pocket.
No, Judge.
Hey, listen to me. If he had the keys in his pocket, and he took the keys out of his pocket and handed them to your son, then he had control of the keys. Your son didn't ask permission. It's like he stole the keys. And what he's saying is, well, nobody stopped me. I mean, you mean if he walked out with the silver and nobody stopped him, he could have the silver? If he saw the family jewels and he said, I'm going to take those. And he said, well, I took them, but nobody stopped me. So why can't I have those? He stole the keys and he went outside. And he was in the car already.
Yes, sir.
All right. How much damage did you have to your car?
I also have another incident, Your Honor, where my new truck was keyed, and I saw Alberto running from my carport that evening, and I have a police report on it as well. And there have been other instances, burnt screens, lawn bags that I've bagged up have been scattered over my yard the next morning, graffiti on the side of my house.
Listen to me, Mr. Garcia. What do you want to say? He wasn't you, right?
The police report didn't even say that. When we was there with the cops, she said that her daughter came out of the house and said that she may have saw the back of my head.
Listen to me, sir. What I'm going to say to you is, only you and I know whether or not you were involved in any of these shenanigans that's taken place in the Burr home since this incident. Unfortunately, Miss Burr knows that she has insufficient proof of what's been going on, this little vandalism and prank stuff, because I'm sure that Brandon is involved, which is why he doesn't see him anymore. I don't know about Dwayne. Dwayne was in the house. Why don't you see him anymore?
I don't know.
So you didn't tell me the whole story. You didn't tell your mother the whole story. He didn't tell you the whole story, Miss Burr. Not the whole story, but he's not responsible. You are. And if you've been fooling around with Miss Burr's property, it better stop. Because now 10 million people know that you are potentially a suspect. So there are going to be lots of eyes on you, including the police. Do we understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. What's the estimate to fix your car?
One is for $1,608, the other one's for $1,733, and the third one, $1,840.
Can I see pictures of the car, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's not $3,000, $1,608. Where did you learn your math?
Also for the keying of my truck.
I already told you that you have no proof of that.
Okay.
He did it. You weren't paying attention. Oh, you're lucky that this damage is only $1,608, that she can have it fixed for that. That's pretty nasty damage, sir. How old are you?
14.
Ever been in any trouble before?
No, ma'am.
Great. Don't get into trouble again. Your mother looks like a very nice lady. She doesn't need trouble from you.
No, she doesn't.
Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $1,608. Thank you.
Parties are excused when they step out.
My son called and said something.
Daughter and son-in-law, Cassie and Cliff Yelvington, for damages resulting from charges made to Child Protective Services.
All rise.
Yeah, this is case number 154 on the calendar in the matter of Brady versus Yelvington. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Miss Brady, this young lady is your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is your husband.
Yes, sir.
According to your complaint, some time ago, your daughter and her husband had a small baby. That baby was removed from their custody by the state because of abuse, and the baby was placed in your custody.
Yes, ma'am.
You had her for approximately a year?
20 months, Your Honor.
And after 20 months, there was a reunification process, and she was ultimately returned to her parents.
Yes, Your Honor.
You now have that child and another child.
Yes, ma'am.
Your complaint is that there came a point where your daughter and son-in-law made some false allegations about you. which required you, because you have a teaching position, to retain an attorney in order to dispute those allegations. And you want them to pay for that attorney and for the emotional distress that you went through from something. Your daughter and her husband say that there came a point when they were concerned over something that their daughter had told them when you were visiting with her, and they had every right to report that. And they are counterclaiming because they say that you have embarked upon a course of trying to interfere with the reunification process by making allegations against the Child Protective Services. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When was the child originally removed from your custody?
January 13th of 2005.
How old was she?
She was approximately 3 months old.
And what was the nature of the abuse that she suffered at 3 months old?
We were staying with some people that we thought were friends, and their youngest daughter was going through a biting phase and put bite marks on our child.
Over what period of time?
A week or two.
You pled guilty to abuse or neglect?
Neglect.
And you understand that you neglected her?
Yes.
As did you?
I wasn't there. I was at work. I was working out of town for the period that this had happened.
The entire time?
It had happened within a week. I was out of town for the whole week.
Now, when the child was with you, did the parents visit?
Yes, ma'am.
At your house?
Initially, they had supervised visitation at my house, and due to the deteriorating situation, I asked for their visitation to be moved to a visitor center.
Well, that's part of their counterclaim, that if you hadn't forced the visitation to be at a visitation center, they might have been reunified with their child earlier. So I would like you to tell me, Ms. Brady, what caused you to report this deteriorating situation?
They were coming over to my house, and I was allowing them wide open visitation. They could come, sit comfortably. I fed them. I permitted them to have any length of visitation they wanted. That was approximately June of 2005. Cliff went into court and claimed that he was paying child support to me, and I had not received any child support from them whatsoever. Also, when they came, they were bringing some people over with them. I didn't mind his family members, immediate family members, like his sisters and Kaylee's little cousins, but they started bringing strangers over.
Who would you bring over to the house?
My cousin.
Why would you do that?
We checked with her first. We told her that we were going to bring over my niece and my cousin, and she
Why
said
would
she
you
didn't
bring
have a problem.
anybody?
Because she would not come over down to Orlando so that my family could see my daughter, and my family wanted to see my daughter because they hadn't seen her since she was born.
Just a minute. What does that have to do with little cousins?
It's not. She was like 13 years old.
So what? This is for you and your wife. Visitation is for you and your wife. How many cousins did you bring to the visitor center?
We didn't take anybody to the visitation center because it was done during the week whenever everybody was working.
Right. So Miss Brady was taking care of business that you should have been taking care of, and if she said to you, don't bring people.
She never told me not to bring people.
Did you tell him not to bring people?
No.
Well, how was she supposed to be a mind reader?
Well, I did object to one person's presence. He was supposedly a friend of Brandy's, his older sister, and I did object to it to Cassie.
And what did she say?
She just shrugged her shoulders and made an excuse.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you got tired of all these people in your house?
Yes.
So you asked that the visitation be at someplace else?
Yes.
Were you going to visitation every weekend with your daughter?
At the center, it wasn't on the weekend. It was only during
At your mother's house?
We were going there about 3-4 days a week.
So that was great.
Us.
That was great.
Yes.
Should have kept it simple.
We didn't know that there was a problem until she sprung it on us at the last minute, saying that there's visitation at the center now instead of at her house.
Okay. Should have been smart enough to figure it out.
If she would have came up to us and said, hey, I have a problem with some of the stuff that's going on, we would have done what we could to correct it.
Mr. Yeldington, you may be right. She probably should have said something to you before she moved it, but that's not a legitimate lawsuit. You should have been smart enough to keep it simple. Go with your wife, sit with your wife, with your 3-month-old daughter, bond with her, spend as much time with her as you can, and not involve the rest of your family. That's just not smart to do. Could she have told you? Absolutely. Is that a lawsuit? Absolutely not. Now, the child was ultimately reunified when?
September the 15th, 2006.
Tell me what happened after September the 15th.
Well, there was one visit that I went to pick her up at. Josh, my grandson, went to pick her up. I had visitation with her every other weekend. And I noticed there was like a mark on the side of her face. Well, when I got her home, it looked like a full-blown handprint on the left side of her face.
Josh, you stand up, please? Josh, you went to pick the baby up.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you see any mark on her face?
Yes, ma'am.
Describe it to me.
It was marks on her face, and there was like some bruising right here.
Did you ask her what happened?
No, ma'am.
Did you?
She wasn't that verbal at that time.
Okay, fine. Do you remember what month this was?
September 2006, towards the end.
So you reported it?
Yes, I did, to the caseworker, and I took pictures.
You have pictures?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see them, please.
There's the originals.
Very hard to see any mark.
Right.
Oh, I see the bruise in the middle of her lip. That I
Right.
do see.
Yeah. That was on a separate occasion.
And then in October of 2006, I see a large black and blue mark on her forehead.
That's it.
Okay. You did the very wise thing and the right thing to notify the caseworker. You understand that, don't you?
Yes, I'm trying to recall on what these marks were.
Yeah, because we were never notified by the department that there was any marks on her.
Or by my
Well,
mother.
but you do understand that being a responsible person, knowing the history of this child.
Yes, ma'am. But what I'm saying is, if there was a allegation made to the department, I think the department would have, at least done an investigation on it. There was
The
no
department
investigation done.
should have done an investigation on it.
Yes, ma'am.
Whether they did or not is another story. No question about that. Okay, what happened next, Miss Brady?
In January of 2007, I had picked up Kaylee from their home, and when I was giving her a shower, I noticed what appeared to be like burn marks, like in a circle on her butt. And I did call DCF. The DCF investigator did tell me, take her to the hospital, have her examined by the hospital.
And did you do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a report from the hospital?
No.
Because you're not the parent.
Right, and I didn't have custody of her at that time.
You have a report from the hospital on this incident?
We do not have it. We gave the copy to our caseworker because we were notified of the allegation. And the moment I was notified, I took my daughter down to the hospital, had her examined, and then also told them to call up the sheriff's department and told them I want to do everything by the book because this allegation is ridiculous.
Did you get a report when Miss Brady took her to the hospital?
Not from the hospital, but I do have the report with the department.
I'd like to read it. Are you trying to toilet train your child?
Yes, Your Honor.
Does your daughter have a psychiatric history?
No. After this point, I think she should.
Well, it is clear to me that based upon this, somebody observed marks on the child's buttocks and thighs that were clearly visible 2 days after your mother-in-law took the child to the hospital.
That right there would be the allegation that Miss Brady put against us for my daughter.
No, my dear.
Because our caseworker...
Kaylee has excoriated red marks on her buttocks and thigh. That's an observation, sir. That is not Miss Brady's observation. That's an observation either by a physician at the emergency room or the caseworker. It says, describes them. They're on her thighs. They're about 2 inches long. The marks on her lower buttocks looks like they may have been from sitting on the toilet for a long period of time.
Which she was not. And the doctors that we took her to and the investigators and everybody told us that they
Don't tell me what anybody told you. Show me a report. This is the only report that I have.
As far as her sitting on the potty for too long, she liked to play on the potty and try to be a big girl, and she would sit there herself. We didn't force her to stay there. And the marks on her thigh were chafing from her diaper because we went for a walk that morning before my mother picked her up.
You also had an excuse for the bite mark she suffered on her body. You claimed that that was not your fault. It is your fault. Whether you did the biting or you permitted this child to be, for over a week's period of time, bitten by another child, that's your fault. And just because a 2-year-old wants to sit on the toilet for a long time doesn't mean that a parent who is exercising parental responsibility allows a child to do that to such an extent that the child has welts on her bottom. Child should not have marks on their thighs from chafing from a diaper if all you have to do is take care of her, which is what the two of you have to do. Take care of her.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I was not able to notify my husband of the marks because the people that we were staying with would not allow me to use the phone, and I had no...
Crawl out! Abe Lincoln walked 10 miles to school. If your child is being abused, you leave and go to a shelter. What's wrong with you?
Geraldine Brady says her daughter and son-in-law falsely accused her of abusing her granddaughter. Cassie and Cliff Yelvington say it's Geraldine who's guilty of making false charges.
Now, so far, Miss Brady, you did everything right.
Thank you.
Now, would you please tell me why you were forced to hire a lawyer?
Well, throughout this 20 months, they've made numerous allegations.
Uncross your arms.
Against me, but then they made a very serious allegation against me July 26, 2006. And I think it was in retaliation because things didn't go very well for them in court.
What do you mean things didn't go well?
I guess that day, they were expecting to be reunited with their child that day in court, and it didn't come about. And I also was badgering them about the child support that they owed me. And we had left court, I had gone, and then next thing I know, I'm getting a call from the caseworker to take Kaylee to a hospital or a doctor immediately for a sexual exam because the allegation had come from Cassie or Cliff.
That said what?
That said they felt that the child had been sexually abused while she was in my care.
Really?
And this really was...
What made you think that?
She would shy away from men. She would not go near them. Like if I would go to pick her up, and I mean, whenever I'd walk around, she would run right up to me. And if I'd go to pick her up, she would curl up in a ball and start crying. So what I did is I told my caseworker, this is what's happening. I don't know what to think about it. I just figured I should notify you about it. And where it went from there was that they put in the abuse allegation for...
Against who?
Against her mother.
You're crazy. Something wrong with you. And you're a nasty person, too.
How am I a nasty person?
You're a nasty person because you retaliated against somebody who took on a responsibility that you and your wife couldn't take care of, which is taking care of a 3-month-old child. I assume that Miss Brady, once she raised her own children, didn't plan on nor desire to raise a 3-month-old baby. The reason she had to do that was in order to prevent your 3-month-old daughter from going into a foster care situation. Because the two of you neglected her, minimally neglected her, perhaps abused her. So she took over that responsibility for 20 months. And instead of kissing her feet, which you should have done.
We tried.
You accused this teacher, this person who cleaned up after your mess, of abuse. That's why you're not a very nice person. Because I have a sense that you rule the roost in your house.
Actually,
that's my
she
sense.
does.
My sense is also that your wife could use a little psychiatric intervention. And if you don't see to it that that happens, you now have 2 children?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
It's not going to be the last time that your children are the subject of intervention by the state. So if you rule the roost in your house, and if you're not the one who's abusing your children, I suggest that you get your wife some help. How much support did you ultimately give her for the time she took care of your daughter?
We came up to a verbal agreement that if she claimed Kaylee on the tax return, we would
You
not have to
didn't
pay it.
answer my question.
We
I
didn't
said
give
how
her
much.
any money because we had a verbal contract that if she claimed her on her tax return, we wouldn't have to pay child support anymore.
The child support wasn't ordered until 2006.
It doesn't have to be ordered. Does it have to be ordered for you to watch your
We
child
were-
so
no,
that she
but we were-
doesn't get bitten?
We were giving my daughter diapers, clothes, anything that she needed.
Who
And then she
cares if you
comes
give
out-
somebody diapers?
Okay, and then she comes out
Who
and tells the
cares if you
courts-
give a baby diapers?
I understand that, ma'am, but then she comes out and tells the courts that she thinks that me saying I'm not going to pay for her bills, not my daughter's, hers, is unfounded because she actually came out and said she wanted this much for this much for this, and this much for this, and one of those being cable, and my 3-month-old daughter wasn't watching cable.
Mr. Yelvington, so instead of doing something, you did nothing. Exclude the cable. You didn't even protect your 3-month-old daughter.
Yes, we did. As soon as
No, you didn't, because your wife had to, of necessity, fed, bathed, and changed this baby over a week's period of time. And as soon as she saw the first bite mark on this child, that child should have been removed from the environment. She chose not to do that. And if you were in communication with your wife, and if there's not something wrong with her mentally, she would have told you that the 3-month-old child had been abused by somebody in that house. And if you were any sort of a parent, you would have come off the road and said, I don't care where we're going, we'll go to a shelter in order to protect her. Instead, you allowed this child to be abused over a week's period of time, according to your wife. And instead of kissing her feet, you made her life miserable. That's your mother. 25 years from now, you're not going to know who he is, but she will always be your mother. And you will always be able to count on her to clean up after you, not him. And if you need mental help, get it. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am, but there is one thing. I was not able to notify my husband of the marks because the people that we were staying with would not allow me to use the phone, and I had no
Crawl out! Abe Lincoln walked 10 miles to school. If your child is being abused, you leave and go to a shelter. What's wrong with you?
Where we lived, there was no shelters nearby.
Go to a police station. Where did you live? In the Yukon? Quiet. You go to a shelter. You go to a police station. You go someplace. Or you don't let your daughter out of your sight.
Yes, Your Honor.
Don't say anything.
Okay.
You both working now?
Yes.
Perfect. Your counterclaim for nonsense is dismissed. You're asking for $1,600, which includes infliction of emotional distress, which you've had, and your attorney's fees.
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff, that's all. Step out.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The woman is not.
Former friend, 21-year-old Megan Foote, for crashing his car while making a beer run. Megan claims the accident was a result of faulty steering.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 168 on the calendar in the matter of Sarden versus Foote.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. Sarden, you allowed the defendant to borrow your car. She took your car. She totaled your car. You want it fixed or replaced.
Yes.
Ms. Foote says that you loaned her your car. She did total your car. It was your car's fault, and she's counterclaiming for the pain and suffering she endured when your car was in an accident. What kind of car was this?
The Lexus ES300,
What year?
1993.
How long have you had it?
About 7 to 8 years.
Have you had any trouble with the car?
No.
Has the car ever been in an accident?
No.
You have it serviced regularly?
Yes.
And it has never been in a reported accident other than this one?
No.
Tell me about the circumstances surrounding your loaning Miss Foote the car.
She was supposed to go to the store.
Where were you first?
We was at a mutual friend's house. We was there for a birthday party for a little kid. I had showed up later on, and then...
What date was it?
March 17th, 2007.
And I assume you knew her before?
Yes.
How long have you known each other?
For about a year and a half, closer to.
Just friends?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so go.
So I had let her borrow my car. She was supposed to go to the store. Now, in order...
Did she ask you to borrow the car?
Actually, we had needed to go on a store run, and I did not feel like going out. I had just came back from driving all day, so I did not feel like going out, so I had let Megan borrow the car.
Well, tell me how it came about.
We was talking, we was in a room, and then everybody was like, we need to go to the store. So I'm like,
What did you have to get?
We had to get cigarettes and beer.
Okay, go ahead.
And then I had let her borrow the car.
I still haven't heard how that came about. Somebody said we need cigarettes and beer.
Okay, we was talking, everybody was talking. I'm sitting there saying, I'm not going to the store. So then she has said, I'll go to the store, you know I'm good. And I said, Meg, I said, are you sure you straight? She was like, Cal, I'm good. So I let her borrow the car.
Oh, okay. So everybody had been drinking?
No, not everybody, no.
But you asked her whether she was okay?
Yes.
Anybody been doing drugs that evening?
No.
Smoking a little?
No.
Just beer?
Yes, beer and cigarettes.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so then she had asked me to borrow the car to go to the store.
Go. She said, I'll go.
Yes.
And I'm good.
Yes.
Which means that she was
Yes.
together enough to go.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So then she went to the store, and now from the house that we was at to go to the store, it takes about 10 to 15 minutes to go to the store and back. So I had noticed my car hadn't been back in about a half an hour, so then I started to worry. And then so I had started to eat me some soup, and then after I finished the soup, I had noticed that my car still wasn't back. And then so one of my friends, female friends, had came over, and she was like, are you still waiting for your car? And I said, yes. And she was like, well, I think your car might have been involved in an accident up the block. And I was like, oh, no. So then I hopped in my friend.
Okay, and you found the car. Whatever. All right, you didn't witness the car accident, but you were there.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you on your way to the store or from the store?
I was on my way from the store.
On your way back to the party?
Yes.
And what did you have in the car?
I had actually gone to pick up my roommate, and he was supposed to pick her up from work that evening. He had gotten intoxicated and forgot.
Who?
She had... Calvin.
Was supposed to pick up your friend?
Yes.
Your Honor.
Fine. What about this beer and cigarette run?
We had gone to pick up cigarettes at the store.
Who did?
Me and my roommate.
So first you picked up your roommate.
Correct.
And then you went to pick up beer and cigarettes.
Cigarettes. There was
Just
no
cigarettes.
beer to be picked up. No.
How old are you?
I'm 21.
And then you were on your way home.
We were on our way back to the party.
How far from the party were you? About a block?
Probably a minute to 2 minutes away. A few blocks.
So tell me what happened.
I was driving. The steering had malfunctioned. Let me get over here. The steering had malfunctioned probably about around here, where the car had gone into the mailbox. One of my passengers that was sitting in the front passenger seat had stated that I was going to hit a mailbox.
Don't tell me what anybody stated to you.
So the car swerved this way. It had swerved back to the other side of the road. Then it went over to the other side again and had gone up on the grass, hit the telephone pole, and that's about all I remember because I was knocked unconscious.
You have a driver's license?
Yes, I do.
You have a car?
Not at the time, no, I did not have a vehicle.
Did you ever have a vehicle?
Yes.
What happened to the car?
I had sold it because of personal issues.
Sold it why?
I had been going, I'm a single mother, and I was more concerned about caring for my child at the time. The car was not in my expenses. It wasn't in my means at the time, so I sold the vehicle so I was able to accommodate my son as properly needed.
You work?
Yes, I do.
How do you get to work?
I have a vehicle now. I went and purchased a vehicle about a couple months ago.
This happened in March.
Correct.
A couple of months ago is April, May.
Right. I purchased a vehicle in May.
When had you sold your other vehicle?
That was, what, November of 2006?
From November until 2006 until May, what did you do?
I had family members helping me out. My brother lent me his car every now and then.
Well, how did you get to work every day?
I would have my family members drop me off to work.
Who do you live with?
I live with my roommate.
She talks very, very fast on her feet.
Yana,
but I don't believe everything that you're saying to me. You understand that?
Yes, I do.
You understand that? You know, because if something doesn't make sense, there's always that slight hesitation.
Right.
So you can always tell when somebody is giving you a line.
Right.
Making things up as they're going. You understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes, I do.
Perfect. Okay, where's the car now?
The car is total.
Total?
Yes, and I have pictures also right here showing that it's total. And also I have an invoice from the place where it was totaled at, stating that it was a total loss.
Well, it certainly is a total loss. Did you replace it?
No.
You know what the blue book is on it?
Yes. I have it right here.
I'd like to see it.
There we go. Right there. And also, Your Honor, just to make you aware, in that area, it's a 30-mile-per-hour zone, and I have pictures of that showing that it's a 30-mile-per-hour zone.
I'd like to see that.
Yes.
Because this wasn't a 30-mile-per-hour accident.
No way.
Now, how fast were you going?
To be honest with you, I don't really recall, but I was never given a speeding ticket.
Were you taken to the hospital?
I refused the ambulance ride because I didn't know what kind of situation he had as far as insurance. I didn't want to put him into financial debt.
What, are you kidding me? You didn't go to the hospital because you probably had a high blood alcohol level.
I was never given a sobriety test.
I didn't ask you that.
Also, Your Honor, I have in my police report where it says that she has slid 144 feet.
I see.
Also, if you was doing about 50 miles per hour, you would have been able to stop at around 175
Well, you don't have
feet.
any expert testimony. She doesn't have any expert witness, do you? Are you a mechanic?
No, ma'am.
You're the friend. You're not a mechanic, are you? You have any proof that there was something wrong with his car?
No, I do not. Your Honor?
What?
I do have an eyewitness that was in the vehicle with me that saw the steering malfunction and lock up on me.
Before or after you slammed on the brakes?
Before.
Oh, really? Love to hear that witness. Love to hear that witness.
Do I stand up?
Are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you want to do this? The question is...
I was there.
Are you sure you want to do this, is my question. Fine.
Yes.
Over here. Your last name?
Rosado.
Miss Rosado, what arrangements had you made to go to the party?
Went to work and I was like, you know what, there's a birthday party, I can go to the party after work.
I said, what arrangements had you made to go to the party?
She was gonna come pick me up.
Now, what would possibly give her the impression that he was supposed to pick you up?
He had told me that day, he had dropped me off that morning to work.
Was there anything wrong with the car?
Not that morning.
How many times has he taken you to work?
A couple of times.
How many is a couple? A couple is two.
Maybe
4 or 5 times.
How many other times have you been in his car?
A lot of times.
Ever had any steering problems?
One time we were in the vehicle and he was like, "Did you guys feel that?" It was his car basically what he was trying to say was his car was messed up when we was in the car.
Don't tell me basically what he was trying to say, madam. Tell me about what happened.
We was in the car one day and we was driving on the highway. I believe they was on the highway. And we was on the highway and he was like, "Wow, did you guys feel that?" He's like, "I have to get my car fixed."
When was that?
The day before we had the accident.
But it had nothing to do with the steering.
Maybe not. I'm not sure. I don't know nothing about cars, Yana.
Listen to me. The day before the accident, so he said to you, "Wow, something's wrong with the car." But yet you got in the car that morning for him to take you to work.
That's true.
Why would you put your life in your hands like that?
Don't know.
Only a stupid person would do that. You're not a stupid person, are you?
No.
Now, you want to tell me what you observed on the 17th of March?
We was in the vehicle. We was driving on Pritchard, which is the road.
How fast were you going?
I don't know, Your Honor.
Well, let me ask you this. Were you going 30 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour?
I wasn't the passenger. I was in the back seat. I wasn't looking at the speedometer.
You don't have to look at the speedometer to know whether you were going 30 miles an hour or 60 miles an hour.
I wasn't paying attention, Your Honor.
Perfect. Then you can sit down. If you weren't paying attention, I'm not interested in what you have to say. Anything else you wanted to say to me?
Yes. He signed up for an insurance policy where he knew he was only covered for him to drive his vehicle if anything were to happen in a situation like this. My question is, why would you let someone use your car when you know you're not insured if anything were to happen in your vehicle?
The question is whether you were driving negligently.
No, Your Honor, I wasn't.
That was sort of a rhetorical question. There's no question in my mind that you were speeding. Based upon the damage to this vehicle, there's no question in my mind that you were going over and above the speed limit. There's also no question in my mind that you had something to drink that night. It's irrelevant, therefore, whether or not he had insurance that covered you. And if you got hurt, you shouldn't have driven too fast, and you shouldn't have had anything to drink while you were driving. That's the price that you pay when you act stupid. Meanwhile, you have to replace his car. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000, that's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think it was an unfair ruling, but there's nothing I could do at this point.
Happy with it. I'm very happy.
I was knocked unconscious at the scene. I had serious bruising.
Oh, man, it looked awful. That's all I could say. It was very bad.
I had not been drinking.
It was definitely reckless driving and also speeding.
Screaming, telling me that I was dead to him and all this other nonsense.
I was very upset.
If it was such a good friendship to begin with, it should have never been brought to a level like this. It should have been handled outside of a courtroom.
Hopefully we can move past this, you know. If she doesn't want to, hey, what can I say?
If you allow somebody to live with you for 13 months and do not collect utilities from them on a regular basis, I'm not going to waste my precious time, 2 graduate degrees, and go over month-to-month Con Edison bills.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of O'Henley versus Debnam. Step forward.
Brenda O'Henley and her brother Daniel are suing their former tenant, Jared Debnam, for unpaid rent and utilities. Jared says his living arrangements were substandard, so he's not paying.
You are brother and sister, is that correct?
Yes.
You bought a condo together?
Yes, 2 years ago.
You live together?
Yes.
Great. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Get along?
Yep. Yeah.
Work
for the
together,
most
too.
part.
Fabulous. How much was this condo?
It was $770,000. It's now worth $950,000.
Perfect. So you bought this condo and you did a very foolish thing. You decided to take in a third roommate.
Yes.
That would be you. And according to your complaint, he owes you a whole bunch of money for rent and primarily for rent, utilities. Mr. Debnam says, well, there was never really a formal agreement about him paying so much per month, and he's got a whole host of other problems that he encountered while living with you. You moved a girlfriend in shortly after he moved in, so he didn't feel as if that was right. There was a leak, and some of his clothes got moldy, right?
Correct.
Have you always lived in the United States of America?
Yes, I have.
So you know that this is what we call a free country.
Correct.
If you don't like something or if you don't like a place where you're living, what can you do?
Choose to move on.
Right. You don't choose to stay, kvetch, and don't pay. You move on to where there isn't a girlfriend, where there isn't a leak, where there isn't mold, but you don't stay and don't pay. Now, you lived there for a year, and you did pay some money in a bulk. You know, you didn't pay it by month because you were sort of not working, whatever. You got a check, and you gave them $4,000.
Well, that was just a part of the check from one of my financial aid checks.
Did you have your own bedroom?
Yes.
Did you have your own bathroom?
No.
Who did you share the bathroom with?
Everybody that used the house. As far as the communal upstairs bathroom, so it wasn't just my bathroom.
And what were you supposed to pay a month?
Before we moved in, I told him, being a graduating senior, that my money was based solely upon receiving periodic financial aid checks, at which time I told him this is how I'd be able to pay him whatever money. And so he knew about this situation before.
Tell me what he knew.
He knew that I would be getting financial aid checks each semester.
Fine.
And
So
that
you
from
did
those
get a-
checks, I would pay him what I could towards the money for living at his place.
Without any set amount? So you could have given him, let's say, $500 for 6 months, and that would have been okay.
No, Your Honor. He wanted to pay, or come to a limit to pay $750 a month.
Ah, okay. You know, I knew if you let you talk long enough, if I let you talk long enough, eventually we were going to get someplace close to the truth, sir. So, according to you, he wanted $750 a month, which you agreed to pay when you got your financial aid checks.
Correct.
How much did you give him?
A little less than $7,500 total.
So that would be for 10 months. Did he give you $7,500?
Overtime, yes.
So how much do you think he owes you?
I've come up with about $6,000.
For what?
Well, it was $750 plus utilities and a sticker for him to park his car. I actually have a breakdown of the whole payment history that I
don't need
received.
the whole payment history. If you acknowledge that he paid you $7,500, that's for 10 months. That means he owes you 3 months' rent, which is $2,250.
Well, do you not include utilities in that?
It does not include utilities,
Our
sir.
agreement included utilities.
Show me in writing.
It was a verbal agreement.
Well, what I'm telling you is, if you allow somebody to live with you for 13 months and do not collect utilities from them on a regular basis, I'm not going to waste my precious time with 2 graduate degrees and go over month-to-month Con Edison bills. What I'm telling you is, if you got $750 a month from him, Mr. O'Henley, we wouldn't be standing here today.
Exactly.
Okay.
But
And that's exactly what I'm going to give you.
I would
$750 a month for 13 months. He's already paid you for 10, which means he owes you $2,250. Now, is there any reason why I shouldn't enter a judgment in that amount, sir?
Just for the living condition that I was provided with when living at this place. This is why he didn't receive, or what I feel he got paid, the full amount of what I was provided living at this place.
That's why we talked about a free country,
Correctly.
Mr. Debnam.
Correct. And so
Free
that
country
was my
means
only
you.
complaint.
Who's the person that's raising her hand that's irritating
I would
me?
agree. Except for I just didn't have the
Who's
opportunity.
the person raising their hand that's irritating me?
This is my fiance. And she's the person who lived with me at this place, not lived, but came and stayed at my place. Or not
So
our
it
place,
wasn't
excuse me.
only his girlfriend that stayed. Your
No.
girlfriend stayed too.
I'm sorry.
Just a second.
4 or 5 days a week.
So it wasn't only his girlfriend that stayed. It was your girlfriend that stayed.
My girlfriend would come there every other weekend and spend
So?
the weekend. Correct.
So she stayed. And if she didn't like living there because of the cold and the mold, she wouldn't have come. Okay. Right?
Right.
Should have gone to her house. Why not stand there and kvetch, sir, that you didn't like the circumstances and you stayed anyway? Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,250. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It is kind of unfortunate that somebody could treat a
Husband's ex-wife, Sally Ricker, for falsely accusing her of vandalizing her car. Sally is countersuing for car damage and lost wages.
All rise. Now, this is case number 63 on the calendar in the matter of Ricker versus Ricker.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat, please.
Mrs. Ricker, this lady is your husband's, I assume this is your husband?
Yes.
Your husband's former wife.
Yes.
And it is your claim that she has been harassing you, that
Yes.
she's filed false charges against you,
Absolutely.
seeking a temporary restraining order, and you are seeking damages.
Absolutely.
The former Mrs. Ricker says that everything that she said in her application for a restraining order is true. She is counterclaiming for harassment and for vandalism that she alleges you did to her car. So, how long were you married to Mr. Ricker?
12 years.
You have children?
We have 3 children.
How old are they?
14, 12, and 7.
When were you divorced?
Our paperwork went through in 2005, but I left in 2002.
And when did you marry?
2 years ago, March 29th.
Do you have children?
No, we do not.
On what date was this restraining order filed?
I believe it was the 20th
of
March. The alleged incident was on the 17th, which would have been St. Patrick's Day.
Okay, I'm going to start with you. Tell me your first name.
Sally.
So that we can differentiate between the Mrs. Rickers. You're Sally. Tell me what happened on March 17th.
On March 17th, I was at an establishment near where I work. My car was parked.
What
in the parking lot.
establishment were you near where you worked?
I was at a nail salon called Tammy's Salon.
Okay.
And I'm looking out the window. I happen to look out, and I see both Tyler and Angela drive up, and I'm
What
shocked.
time?
It was about 2:30. I saw Tyler get out of the car, and then I saw Angela get out of the passenger side door, and together they hurriedly sort of walked into my place of employment.
What is the name of your place of employment?
I work at Trader Joe's. I happened to be off this day.
So you were off on March 17th?
I was.
How far is your place of employment from where you live?
4 miles across town.
Did you have an appointment for your nails?
No.
What was the name of the person who did your nails?
You know, I'm sorry, I don't know. She's an Asian woman, and I don't know her name.
Does she usually do your nails?
No, I walk in.
So you don't go to any particular person?
Not at that place, no.
Is there any reason why you went to that place on that day, despite the fact that you weren't working that day?
I had some time to myself. As I'm still parenting my 3 children, I don't get a lot of time away.
Yeah, but this place is cross town. Why would you go across town unless you have a particular nail lady who does your nails and had an appointment rather than walking into some place that's closer and not cross town?
Well, it's inexpensive. I had a few hours to go do my nails and get some groceries and go home.
Where were you getting your groceries?
At Trader Joe's.
Did you actually go into Trader Joe's?
No, I decided not to go in.
Go ahead, Sally.
So?
Go ahead. I'm listening. So they went into Trader Joe's, and you were having your nails done by a person whose name you don't know, and you just happened to be looking out the window. Let me hear the rest.
Yes, so they continued to walk in, and they asked for me while they were in the store. And
How do you know that?
Because I had a conversation with my son. I called my son after I saw them.
Just a second. You called your son where?
I called my son from my cell phone.
And where was he?
He was at his grandmother's house. And I asked them if he had heard from his dad that day, because we haven't heard or seen from Tyler in 9 months. And so I called my son to see if he had heard from his dad this day, to find out why he would be in town. And he said, yes, he was there with Angela, and they were looking for you at the store.
What's your son's name?
My son's name is Aaron.
How old is he?
He's 14.
Stand up, sir. Did you call your son that day, Mr. Richter?
I did.
Where did you reach him?
I
on his
reached
cell
him
phone?
Yes, on his cell phone. He was at my parents' house.
At your parents' house?
Yes.
And did you ask him where his mother was?
I asked if his mother was at work.
Why?
Because I had part of his birthday present to give to him.
Which part?
A credit card that had come in the mail after his birthday.
Did you see him that day?
No, I did not.
Why not?
Because he was at my parents' house.
Are you not allowed to be there?
It's not a comfortable place for me to be, but I'm allowed to be there.
Well, if you wanted to give him a credit card, why did you ask where his mother was?
I was going to give it to her if she was there.
So did you end up giving him his birthday present?
I did not.
Why not?
I was told she was not there.
Did you go into Trader Vic's?
Trader Joe's?
Trader
yes.
Joe's?
Yes, I did go into Trader Joe's.
Trader Joe's, Trader. What?
Had a cup of coffee, and my wife and I did a little bit of shopping.
On the 17th of March, how long had it been since you'd seen your son?
I had seen him on his birthday, which was 1 month prior to that.
Where did you see him?
I saw him in Pleasanton at his mother's house.
Spent some time with him?
Yeah.
Why did you say he hadn't seen the children for 9 months?
Prior to that, Tyler had left Angela.
Listen to me. You told me that he hadn't seen the children for 9 months. He
Right.
said he saw his son in February, a month before. Well, which is true.
He did not come to our house.
I didn't care whether he came to your house or not. I don't care whether he saw the children at McDonald's. Did he see his son in February?
He did not see his son on his birthday.
I asked you a question. Did he see his son in February?
He did not see his son on his birthday.
Did he see his son in February of 2007?
He did not see his son on February 15th.
I didn't ask you about February 15th. I said, did he see his son in February?
No, he did not see his son in February.
I don't believe you.
He saw his son on March 28th when he left his wife Angela and came into town for a few days.
Are you on medication?
No, I am not.
There is no question in my mind that he saw his son in February, a month before the March incident. So when I asked you the question 4 times, you gave me an evasive answer. 4 times. Now I'm asking you one more time. It's very easy for me to find out. All I have to do is call Aaron. Did he see Aaron in February, anywhere, at any time during the month of February of 2007?
I'm telling you that he did not see his son in February. I would have known that because we were together. If he saw his son, it could have been at school.
Where did you see him in February?
I saw him the weekend before his birthday. I had a hotel room in Pleasanton at Extended Stay Hotels. His mother dropped them off there, all 3 of my children. Yes, they stayed with me for the entire weekend, including Monday, which was a holiday. Then I saw them later at her house in February.
Of 2007.
And I was there on his birthday.
February 2007.
Yes.
Let's go, Sally.
That is not true. That is not true.
Just a second. You want me to call Aaron? Very simple to find out. He has a cell phone?
Yes, he does.
You want to change your mind before I call him on his cell phone? Do you want to change your mind before I call him on his cell phone? I hate to get him involved in this, but I'm prepared to do it because it's very important to me.
It's important to me to be able to speak as well. So
I asked you a question. Did he see his children in February of 2007? And I'm going to be able to find that out either through you or through Aaron, who I will reach on his cell phone.
On February 27th, yes. In February, Tyler saw Aaron.
Fine.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You say Angela goes on and off her medication for schizophrenia.
She knows nothing about schizophrenia.
You ever been diagnosed as schizophrenic?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Angela Ricker claims her husband's ex-wife, Sally Ricker, falsely accused her of vandalizing her car. Sally is countersuing for car damage and lost wages.
Okay, now you're going to tell me that you saw Angela vandalize your car.
Yes, I did.
Is that you're going to continue? Let's go.
So on the way back out to the car, I was watching Angela as she had circled my car, and she started by standing and waiting for me, and then I saw her come around all 4 circles of my car with sort of a dragging movement with her arms swiping. And when I saw her out there, I had no idea what she could have been doing to my car. I knew that she may have been...
Don't tell me what you thought. I don't care what you thought.
Okay.
You have pictures of your car and you have a police report.
I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
These are the 2 that printed out. And then this is the police report. It spans all 4 doors of my car. Unfortunately, there are only 2 pictures that showed up.
Did you scratch our car?
No, I did not.
Tell me what happened when you left Trader Joe's.
We got into the car and we went home. We were going to my grandmother's. When I go from San Leandro to Stockton, where my family is, we usually stop at that Trader Joe's. It's right off the highway. It's very convenient for me. After all of this happened, it ruined my trip and I went home. I was devastated. I was very angry.
What do you mean after all of this happened? What
Well,
happened?
she told Aaron on the phone that I had done this to her car, involved a 14-year-old in this. It just really, it hit. And then when I got accused of this and a police report was put out, brought into court.
Can I see the underlying paperwork, please,
Yes,
that
ma'am.
went along with her application for a restraining order?
Yes, ma'am. Since we've established that, most of that is fallacious. It's false.
That
She
is not
knows
true.
nothing about bipolarity nor schizophrenia.
Okay. And in your application for an order of protection, which is, I assume, written in your own hand, you say Angela came to my place of work unannounced, and she later called my son and verbally abused him. Did you speak to Aaron later?
I did speak to Aaron.
Tell me what happened when you spoke to him.
I spoke to him and I asked him why he was saying those things to
Saying
his
what
father.
things?
That I had vandalized the car, that I'd gone into her work looking for her, harassing, stalking, using those words. Aaron and I have never had any problems. I haven't seen the children in almost a year because of this behavior. I've refused to allow them in my home when I'm there.
Why?
Because of her. She debriefs them every time they go home. It's a drama from Friday to Sunday. Phone calls. It's just never a drop-off pickup. It's always something. And I couldn't handle it. Our marriage has been in jeopardy for almost 2 years because of this.
In your application for a restraining order,
Yes.
You say Angela is explosive.
Yes.
And goes on and off her medication for schizophrenia and bipolar illness.
That's according to my ex-husband.
Did you ever tell her that?
Absolutely not.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. When did he tell you that she was bipolar and schizophrenic?
When he left her in February, it was February 27th, he left because they were having a domestic dispute.
Okay, so he left and in February.
In February, yes.
Go ahead.
I know I won't live that one down. I'm sorry.
You won't?
I know. I'm sorry. So, anyway, his brother brought him into town. He didn't have any money. He didn't have a job. Nothing. Brought him into town. He said he wanted to see the kids. And from that point, he had not seen the kids for 9 months. Okay?
So why would you tell me that he didn't see the children in February when he did?
Well, no, because I'm sorry, I'm really nervous today. I'm very, very sorry.
That's nervous is not an answer, madam. You told me a very cogent story about everything that you allegedly saw with regard to this lady, how she stalked your car, how she bent down, how she had sweeping motions. But when I asked you a question a half a dozen times, you refused to give me an honest answer about when your husband last saw his children.
He wasn't at my house on February 15th, which was
I didn't ask you anything about February 15th. I didn't even know when Aaron's birthday was.
Okay.
I asked you February. You said 9 months. He said February. It wasn't until I was planning to call Aaron and find out whether he had seen his father in February that you finally said he saw him in February. Do you understand that that gives me cause to pause?
Yes.
Well, it does. Do you take medication?
No, ma'am.
You ever been diagnosed as schizophrenic?
No, ma'am.
Bipolar?
No, ma'am. Your Honor, it was not February 27th that we separated. It was the beginning of the month. He was in Point Reyes. He decided to stay there with a friend at a bed and breakfast to do some work on the home. He was at her house. He called me from her house.
I understand that. Have your children spent time with the plaintiff in her home?
Yes, they have.
And they've come home in one piece?
Basically.
Not for a year.
Shh. Others to be protected. Absolutely. Angela has no discretion when she is angry. My children should never be anywhere near this person.
They have a history of domestic violence.
Was there a history of domestic violence with you?
I left.
That's just a second. That's either a yes or a no.
Yes.
So there was a history of domestic violence with you.
With my husband.
So I got it. And you allowed that situation to go on more than once?
Yes.
You allowed your children to remain in a situation where there was domestic violence?
I left that.
You let it go on for a long time? Do you understand, Mrs. Richter? Do you have a full-time job?
I do.
How long have you been working for the same place?
This job I have currently is 4 months.
Do you have a significant other or a husband?
No, I do not.
Are you working? Take your hands out of your pockets.
Not right now, no.
Why not? Is not an answer.
I had a job up until April 1st working on airplanes. I was let go from that job.
Up until April 1st, were you paying child support?
I was.
How much?
$411 a month was taken from my checks.
How long had you been paying the $411?
Only for a month at that point, and then there was a large gap between that point and the last time I held a job.
Well, Mr. Richter, that's unacceptable, sir.
I understand that.
Very unacceptable. No, not
I'm
unacceptable.
injured, Your Honor. I'm injured.
Very unacceptable, sir.
I do understand that. I was injured at my last job.
Yeah.
And the injury prevented me from working.
What was the last job?
The last job was working for Vortex Stores.
Yeah.
And
what year?
From June to August of 2006.
Well, that's a couple of months, sir.
I understand that. I was injured. I had a severe back injury.
So that you were out of work for 2 months?
I was out of work until I got a job in March of 2007.
Who supports you?
Workman's Comp was supposed to be, but the company that hired me is fighting all of that, and so Workman's Comp did not pay my payments. That's currently
so you've been
in litigation.
You've been separated from your former wife since 2002.
Since 2002.
Since 2002. Until you were injured. Just listen to me carefully. Until you were injured in June of 2006, were you regularly paying child support?
I was. I regularly paid child support when I had a job.
That's not my question. Don't play with me.
Oh, I'm not
You
playing with
two
you,
people deserve
Your Honor.
each other. You two people deserve each other. Not when you were working. How old are you?
I'm 40.
You have 3 children.
I understand
There is
that.
no question that you have to be employed regularly.
And I don't care whether you work at McDonald's or if you don't have another job, if you work at a car wash, drying cars, if you can't do something else. You have 3 children. No wonder she's furious with you. You work?
Yes, I do.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a registered nurse.
So you earn a reasonable living?
Yes, I do.
So you support the family?
Yes, I do.
Right. No wonder she's furious with you. Collect cans if you have to, but you send money. And if she's angry with you, unfortunately, she took it out on the wrong person. Because I don't believe you, madam, that you saw her vandalize your car. I don't believe you. The case was dismissed, was it not?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, did anybody else ask you the questions that I asked you about the name of this person who did your nails, why you traveled cross town to get your nails done? Was the person who tried this case?
No, he did not.
He did not?
No.
Because he doesn't understand that you don't travel cross town to just walk into a nail salon. You can walk into a nail salon anywhere. You don't have to travel 4 miles cross town to do that. A lot of baloney. I don't believe you. I believe that you're angry with him. And I believe that you're angry with her because she's an enabler, because she's working. He's not, at least on the books anywhere, and he's not paying support. I got that you're angry, but you can't do this. This is nonsense, and I don't believe you.
Well, I saw it happen.
No, it didn't. I think that you probably even scratched your own car, but I don't believe that she scratched your car. I don't believe that this professional woman scratched your car.
I wouldn't have done that to
No
my car.
way. No way. And when you lie to me once, I don't believe you again. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. Start working, sir. That's what you're supposed to do. The counterclaim's dismissed. That's all.
Parties are disputed. You may step out.
She's a liar. She's a known liar. She just proved it to the judge.
He's $20,000 behind in child support.
During the time that I was working, I
is suing her former friend, 24-year-old iron worker Michael Rosenquist, for wrecking her car and then giving false information. Jennifer says his actions got her in trouble with the police.
Yeah, this is case number 177 on the calendar in the matter of Klein versus Rosenquist. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats.
All right, the basic of this case has to do with the fact that Miss Klein says, Mr. Rosenquist, that you were driving her car. She was in the car with you at the time you were driving the car, and you hit another car. And then Miss Klein says that when you got out of the car, the driver of the other car and you supposedly exchanged information, or you gave the owner of that car your information.
That's correct.
Which Miss Klein says was false. As a result of that, she was hauled in by the police because the car is registered in her name and the owner had the license plate, and she got into some serious difficulty. So she's suing you for a whole bunch of things, including fixing her car, the other man's car, because she was originally going to be tried with hit and run. Is that right?
Yeah.
And your defense to the case is, if she didn't like the way I handle it, she should have taken care of it herself.
Well, if you're a driver, you know, you should, depending on what happened, you know, no matter what happened, I feel that she should
Just
give...
a second, I got a feeling this is going to be one of those. One of those slippery things where he's thinking as he's talking. So we're going to get a real kick out of this. Okay? So let's pay attention. This is going to be like Comedy Central. All right, Mr. Rosenquist, let's start again.
Basically, I just feel that she should have had to give her information too, you know, just to follow through, you know, with the information that I gave.
So what you're saying is that... Are you chewing gum?
Yes, ma'am.
So basically, Mr. Rosenquist, what you're saying is if she didn't like the way I handled it, she should have handled it herself.
Yes.
You're a fast learner. First of all, let's go back. Why was he driving your car? Look at me. Don't smile. Don't smile, and don't give me a lot of baloney. Why was he driving your car?
Because he insisted on it, and he was checking to see if I had a noise in my car, and he was driving it to see what was wrong.
Was he a mechanic?
Yes.
Was he your mechanic?
No, he was a friend. That was a mechanic.
He was a friend of yours. Was he a date? Had you gone out with him?
We're just friends, good friends.
And on what day was he driving your car?
I believe it was July 17th, 2002.
And how long had he been driving your car?
Probably 2 minutes.
Where did this accident happen?
He was taking a right into an apartment complex.
Why was he going into an apartment complex?
Because that's where his friend was at, but he wanted to go see if he was home. He takes a right, and the music was up kind of loud. I have a loud stereo. So he turned into the apartment complex, hit the other car, and the guy got out of his car, stopped us, and he got out of the car, started talking to the other guy. By the time I got out, he said that he had given him his information and that everything was going to be taken care of, that he was going to pay for all damages and for me not to worry about it. And so I calmed down, and we went back to his house, and I examined my bumper, which it had been scratched and ripped away a little bit, and he kept on assuring me everything was going to be taken care of.
What was the next thing that happened, Miss Klein?
A week later, he was talking to me, and I asked him if the guy had ever called him. He said no, he must have, not really cared, not a lot of damage. And the next day, I get a phone call from my parents saying that the police called saying that I had been in a hit and run, and I needed to call Sherwood Police Department and work it out with them. So I called them. They told me that someone in the accident gave false information to the other driver, and so it's a hit and run, and since it's underneath my name, I'm the one responsible.
So what did you do?
I went to the police station, talked to them, and then they told me that they would put a warrant out for my arrest and arrest me if I did not bring him in. So I went and got him, and I brought him in.
What did you tell the police?
I told the police my version of the story.
Which was?
When we pulled into the parking lot, the stereo was loud, and I didn't even feel anything. It was kind of a heat, dead serious. Did not feel anything at all. I don't know if it was because the subs were going or what, but pulled in the parking lot, next thing you know, I've got this gentleman standing next to the window. I couldn't even really understand him very well, but I could smell liquor. We were at the river all day, and I actually was drinking too. And he was a little bit belligerent, I felt a little bit threatened, hence the false information that I gave.
So you gave false information?
The only false information that I did give was not my last name.
Well, what last name did you give him?
My mother's maiden name.
So you gave him misinformation?
Still, he got a hold of me.
You gave misinformation?
So be it.
Oh.
I didn't want a drunk person showing up at my house, endangering my family or myself, or anybody else for that matter.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jennifer Klein says former friend Michael Rosenquist owes for wrecking her car and then giving false information.
What do you do for a living?
Iron worker.
How old are you?
24.
Do you go to church? I asked you a question.
Religiously?
Ever?
No. Yes, I do.
Do you know the name of a minister?
Do I? A few, yeah.
Good.
I know a few
Then
chaplains.
Just a second.
Sorry.
I'm way ahead of you. So if you were concerned that this belligerent drunk would contact you or go to your home, you say, listen, I don't know who you are, sir, so I'm going to give you the name of my minister. This is my name, and you can get in touch with me through my minister, and I will contact my minister, and we can make arrangements for me to fix your property through that. There are all kinds of ways to do it if you want to be honest. If you want to be dishonest and slick, you do what you did, which is give him misinformation so that he can't track you down. The only problem is he has her license plate number.
That's correct.
So she got in trouble. What did you do about it when you found out she got in trouble? What did you do?
I went down to the police station.
Did you take care of her car? The answer is either yes or no. Did you take care of the man's car?
Nope.
Why not?
That's what we're deciding here today.
We're not deciding anything. You already told her that you would take care of everything. You said, don't worry, I'll take care of everything. I gave him my information, I'll take care of it. That's what you told her. So you lied to her. Isn't that right?
Yes.
That means you're a liar. You also lied to me because you filled out this answer, which I read very carefully, which didn't say at all that you gave him misinformation. It says, he made it very tense, so I gave him my work address as a means of contacting me. So you gave him your work address, but with the wrong name.
Wrong last name.
Wrong name. What's your first name?
Michael.
Okay. Let's see this. Bird, how many Michaels do you know? Just think. How many Michaels do you know? Do you know more than 2 Michaels?
I know more than 10 Michaels.
No more than 10 Michaels. What's your name?
Jeff DeMont.
Jeff! How many Michaels do you know?
More than 5.
What's your name?
Josh.
Better not be Michael. You know a couple of Michaels, Josh?
I know about 3.
We're not talking about a very, very odd name. We're talking about Michael. Michael. Right? And you work as an iron worker?
That's correct.
And how many people work in your plant?
My plant?
Where you work?
Where do I work?
Where you work. The plant where you work. Unless you do iron work in your backyard.
I build power plants and water treatment facilities. It depends.
So you must work with a lot of people.
Of course I do.
Any Michaels?
More than a few.
So let's not play with each other, Mr. Rosenquist. Miss Klein, I'm finished with playing with Mr. Rosenquist. He is a loser, and a dishonest one at that. So would you kindly tell me what your damages were?
First, I have a $75 ticket I had to pay because they gave me a ticket for failure to report an accident. Then I have an estimate of my insurance with my parents compared to one on my own now.
What do you mean?
Well, because of this whole entire situation, I was underneath my parents' insurance, and the accident was for the other guy's car was paid from my insurance company, and plus this extra ticket on my insurance too. So my insurance went through the roof.
He's not going to compensate you for that. You want to know why? Don't let somebody else drive your car. And if somebody is driving your car and turns up the blasters up so that you can't hear yourself think and you can't hear yourself have an accident, then that's your problem.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today...
Where is your engagement ring?
It's home.
So you still have it?
Yes.
Yeah, she wouldn't give it back.
Why didn't you give him back the engagement ring?
Because I figured he owed me more than that with his wedding. You stood me up.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jennifer Klein says former friend Michael Rosenquist owes for wrecking her car and then giving false information.
You want to know something else? I'm adding on the $75 ticket $500 because that's what I think your afternoon of having agita was worth when you had to go down to the police station after your parents being called and told that you were being charged with hit and run unless you went down there because he lied.
Okay, thank you.
And that's what I think it's worth other than taking care of the other person's car. Now, did you do that or did the insurance company do that?
Excuse me, can you repeat that?
Did your insurance company cover the other man's
Yes.
damage or did you?
No, the insurance company did,
Fine.
and that's the reason why.
What about the damage to your car?
I only have liability, so it didn't cover my car.
Is it a scratched bumper that you had fixed or that you didn't have fixed?
I haven't been able to get it fixed because my insurance has been so expensive. I haven't had a car for 10 months. And
you haven't had a car?
Well, I've had the car, but I haven't been able to drive it. I haven't been able to afford it being a college student. But I got an estimate, which is $586.50.
To fix the bumper?
Yes.
So he's going to pay you $75 for the ticket and $500 for either your aggravation or the bumper. Do you understand? Do you understand?
Yes.
$575, judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Ladies are excused. You may step out.
I think it went well. I'm happy that I got something, at least.
She knows that I was drinking all day long at the rivers. I mean, she was right there with me.
He continuously told me that once he got a job, he was going to reimburse me, and I never saw him or the money after that.
Lost a pretty good friendship over it, and, you know, it's taken a lot of time out of me.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Graves versus Darden. Step forward, please.
Homemaker Angelina Graves is suing her ex-fiancé, nurse's assistant Johnny Darden, for the cost of wedding expenses. Angelina says Johnny left her standing at the altar.
Mr. Darden, you don't mind if I start with you, do you?
Go ahead.
Because we're going to, for a brief moment, put the law on a shelf. And let's talk reality and common sense. Okay? According to what I've read in your complaint and your answer, the two of you have been together some 13 years.
Off and on.
And you have a child together.
Son.
Son, who is how old?
7.
Is that your only child?
Yes.
And is that your only child?
No.
How many children do you have?
I have a daughter, 20.
And the two of you finally decided to make legitimate a relationship that had gone on and off for 13 years and were planning a wedding.
And Mr. Darden, it seems that the day of the wedding or the day before the wedding, you decided it was a big mistake and you took off.
Yes.
Leaving Miss Graves to deal with the guests, the wedding, the plans, the out-of-town visitors, the caterer, the gown, the wine, the flowers, the everything. You just couldn't deal with it. You couldn't face her and you took off. Right?
Yes.
And Miss Graves says she wants the wedding expenses paid by you because you took off, and what she's requesting is relatively modest. It's $1,600. And your defense to that was, your legal defense is, we never had an agreement that I would reimburse her for the money that she laid out for the wedding.
Yes.
What's your son's name, Mr. Darden?
Quayon.
And who does Quayon live with?
His mother.
Do you love him?
Yes, I do.
Do you see him?
Yes.
How often do you see him?
Now, about once a week.
And is he a happy child?
Yes, he is.
You love him to death?
Yes, ma'am.
He lives with his mother. So I assume if you're an intelligent man, and you appear to be an intelligent man, that you want the person who's caring for your most cherished possession, which is your son, to be happy.
Yes, I do.
Of course, you understand that you made her very unhappy when you left her with all this.
Yes.
When you left her at the altar, having to have to deal with the whole wedding, and you took off.
Yes.
And what it's going to cost, and I'm not even getting into her bills, what it's going to cost is $1,600 for her to be happy. And if she's happy, Quayon is happy. And if she's unhappy, it's not that she will make him unhappy, it's just that that sort of feeds into a family.
It does.
Are we following each other, Mr. Darden?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you giving Miss Graves support for Quayon?
Yes.
How much do you pay her?
$42 a week.
You think that's enough?
No, I don't.
It is. Miss Graves, how much was the entire amount that you laid out?
It was about 21.
And Mr. Darden, your answer says that you also spent about $1,000 in wedding expenses.
I did.
What did you buy?
I didn't buy anything. I gave her the money.
Did he?
He gave me $300.
$300?
No,
I'm sorry.
He gave you $300.
Yes.
So he spent, let's deal with what she has. Did he buy rings?
He bought my ring. Yeah, he bought my engagement ring.
Where is your engagement ring?
It's home.
So you still have it?
Yes.
Yeah, she wouldn't give it back.
Do you want it back?
Yes, I asked for it back.
Why didn't you give him back the engagement ring?
Because I figured he owed me more than that with his wedding. You stood me up. But he can have the ring. I don't want it.
Oh, fine.
He can.
So we can have it back.
Yes.
I mean, I don't have a counterclaim, but as long as you agree, then you
can
can have
have
the
it.
ring back. Okay? So let's say, in addition to that money, you gave her $300, which means that $2,400 was spent on the entire wedding, including your wedding dress.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Was it custom-made wedding dress?
No, it was bought like that.
How much did you spend for it?
I paid $800 for the gown.
So if you spent $800 for the gown and it was never worn,
No.
you could probably sell it for $400, at least. That's half. So I'm taking $400 off the $2,400, leaving $2,000. Now, Mr. Darden, what's going to make Miss Graves happy is not what she's suing for, but you're going to get your ring back, which you can sell. What's going to make her happy is $1,000, which is half of $2,000, because I believe that each of you would be responsible for the expenses of the wedding, even though you got cold feet. It's better to get cold feet before than afterwards. So how do you feel about that, Mr. Darden? Do you think that's fair?
No.
Why not?
Well, I don't feel I should have to pay. Because I gave her more than $300 on this wedding.
How much did you give her?
I don't have receipts on them because I didn't ask for receipts.
How much did you give her?
At least $1,000.
Oh, for what? Tell me for what?
I don't know what for. She just said she needed money, and I gave it to her. I didn't ask what she was spending it on. I didn't ask for a receipt because I never thought this would come up.
Mr. Darden, the embarrassment alone is worth $1,000, sir.
You're right.
Okay. And the fact that your son lives with his mother and she's unhappy is worth that.
Yeah.
And the fact that somebody made an order for $42 a week support for your only child, which means you're getting off really cheap. Wouldn't happen in my court, I'll tell you that right now.
should make the $1,000 to you a bargain. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He said he got tired of arguing or whatever, and he just couldn't deal with it. He called that Friday.
Is suing her former live-in boyfriend, 22-year-old web designer Carlos Chanlate, for a loan for furniture. Carlos is countersuing, claiming Cecilia broke into his apartment and destroyed the furniture in question.
Yeah, this is case number 141 on the calendar in the matter of Durazo versus Chanlate. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat, please.
Mr. Razzo, I've read your complaint, and according to what I've read, you were living in Syracuse, New York.
Yes, I attend school there.
Mr. Chanlate was living in New York City.
That's correct, ma'am.
He was smitten and decided to move from New York City to Syracuse, New York, a decision that he lived to regret.
That's correct, ma'am.
According to you, he moved there in April of 2002, correct?
Yes.
And he got an apartment. The apartment had no furniture, and according to your complaint, you loaned him money to buy furniture so that he'd have a couch to sit on and a bed to sleep on, and he owes you $610. Mr. Chanlate said that the furniture was a gift because he relocated to live with you. The money that was advanced was never intended to be a loan. You couldn't stand the fact that he was sleeping on the floor and sitting on a crate, so that you agreed to buy him the furniture. In addition to that, Mr. Chanlate says that 4 months later you unceremoniously dumped him, right?
That's correct, ma'am.
And then broke into his apartment, causing him to have to change the locks. He ultimately went to the police. He lost a day's wages, which he's counterclaiming for. He was also fired from his job because he worked at the school where you were a student, and they made him leave the school, and on and on and on. And aside from everything else, he hated Syracuse.
That's correct, Your Honor.
So he's counterclaiming. So let's hear about the furniture.
Yes, he got an apartment. At the time, he had very little people that were willing to help him, including his parents.
Well, because he was moving to be close to you.
Which I did not ask him to do. He chose, I asked him not to move to Syracuse.
Really?
Yes.
You told him not to move to Syracuse?
Yes, several times.
Is that right?
Actually, what, Your Honor, what she had said was that she didn't think it was a good idea. However, she left the moving up to me.
She didn't think it was a good idea?
Yeah.
Because why?
Just because I had to move, job that I was working at, I had to leave that job, had to find a new job up there. Those kind of circumstances, Your Honor.
So she didn't think it was so smart for you to leave New York City?
Yes.
So why did you come?
I moved because I thought that I had enough money. I thought it'd be best for us maybe to be a little closer together. There were times where there was complaints about, you know, us not being able to see each other as often.
Who was complaining, you or her?
Both parties, Your Honor.
Is that right?
More so him.
I gather. Okay, so we got there. Let's go.
He asked me to loan him the money to buy the furniture.
What did he say?
He didn't have money. He said, you know, he began working at the university. As soon as he gathered enough money, he would pay me back. Mr. Plord, who is also Mr. Chanlate's witness, was present when we bought the furniture. I bought him, well, I loaned him, I put it on my credit card. Knives, spoons, a little table that we bought, and a futon.
Were you present when this furniture was purchased?
Yes.
Step up, please. How do you know these people?
Well, she was a resident advisor at Marion Hall, and so was I, and that's how we met. And then when he moved to Syracuse, I met him because he was there.
Tell me what you know about the furniture.
It's a futon, it's a stainless
No, you were
steel.
there when it was purchased?
Yes. I brought the mattress home in my car.
Did you hear any conversation between the plaintiff and the defendant with regard to loan, gift?
She just put it on her credit card and didn't say much about repayment or anything.
You didn't hear any of that?
I didn't hear anything like that.
Good. You can have a seat. Okay. So you put $610 on your credit card. Is that what you put on the credit card?
Yes. We've met several times after we broke up, even for lunch, discussing when payment would be made. So there's been plenty of discussion about the payment of the furniture, and Mr. Plord was also there when Mr. Chanlate admitted that he did owe me that money.
Okay, fine. Now, sir, you say that she broke into the apartment and she destroyed the furniture.
Yes.
Is that true?
That is true, Your Honor.
Is that true?
I did not break into his apartment. We had a
Did you destroy the furniture?
No, I did not destroy.
Did you do anything to the furniture?
I will tell you how he claims.
No. Tell me what you did to the furniture.
I went to his apartment. I had the key, which he gave me. I went, he has a very narrow spiral staircase, and I slipped. It was myself and another girl. It was about my size. It's a pretty heavy futon, just the mattress. And we were unable to get it down the spiral staircase, so we had to throw it over.
Throw it over what?
The staircase is a spiral and it's thin. We could not physically get it through the staircase, so we had to throw it over.
And what? Put your hand down.
Okay.
And what happened when you threw it over? You mean just the mattress?
Well, yeah, we got it down there. Like I said, I slipped, and we got it down there. And then once we were trying to get it in my friend Kenny's car, who took us to get the mattress, and we weren't able to. So we left to go find Carlos so I can retrieve the rest of my items, the futon frame and everything else I had in the apartment.
Could you tell me what you did with the futon?
The mattress?
I lost you at it. You couldn't get it in your car after you threw it over the
Yeah, I left
railing.
it there because there's nowhere I could not.
Where?
I left it on the ground outside because...
You get nothing for the furniture.
The futon frame is...
You get nothing for the furniture. Madam.
The mattress costs only about $200 compared to...
I don't care. In order for him to be able to use the futon frame, he has to have a futon. You destroyed the futon.
He had a year to pay me back for it. And
Then if you had waited and done exactly what you did by filing a small claims case against him, you would have gotten your money if I found that, indeed, he promised to pay you back. But what you did was, first you went to his house, you destroyed part of the property that put him in a position where he couldn't use it, because in order to use a futon frame, because I know what they look like, you have to have a futon mattress. So either he had to go out and buy a new futon mattress so that he could use it, or he gets rid of the frame. You get nothing for the furniture. Do you understand?
Do I get my furniture back?
What furniture back?
It belongs to me. I paid for it. So can I have the futon?
If he's got it,
Your
do you
Honor,
have the frame?
It is currently in Jonathan Plord's dorm room.
Oh, fine.
So she can go pick it up also.
Perfect. Just a second.
All right.
So far, you're not doing badly, right?
Yes.
She's going to come over and get the frame.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Jonathan? Zippity-doo-dah.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
That I do not have. He has not returned my phone calls.
Listen, I'm getting really frustrated. And I shouldn't be frustrated. I'm too old to be frustrated.
And later today,
The change out of my piggy bank is missing.
You think she took all that?
I'm not sure. From what
Give me
she's
a
telling
break.
me,
She don't look like the kind of person who would steal your property, madam.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Cecilia Durazo claims ex-boyfriend Carlos Shanlate owes for a loan to buy furniture. Carlos says Cecilia destroyed the furniture in question.
Let's get to your counterclaim. So we've just taken care of your claim. Futon frame, back to her, 5 days.
Do I get the money for the spoons and table and
No.
everything else?
No, you don't get the money for the spoons. Now let's move on. She used the key, she acknowledges, to go into your apartment, so you had to change the locks. On what date did she go into your apartment?
I believe that was April 26th. It was a Saturday.
And when did you leave that apartment?
About a week and a half later.
Now, do you have a receipt from a locksmith for changing the locks on the apartment?
No, my landlord did the lock change. He charged me for the lock. And
Show me.
I don't have it.
Well, that's what we call proof. In court, we need proof.
I do have photographs of the damage to the apartment, which caused me to lose my security deposit, though, Your Honor.
Show me proof that the landlord kept your security deposit. Do you have that?
No, that I do not have. He has not returned my phone calls.
Listen, I'm getting really frustrated. And I shouldn't be frustrated. I'm too old to be frustrated. When you come to court, you have to have proof. Do you understand?
I understand, Your Honor.
You don't have proof for me. It's very easy to get a letter, statement, showing that I'm not returning your security deposit, because I would assume that if the apartment wasn't a wreck, you would have gotten your security deposit back, right?
Yes, also on top of that, because I was forced to resign from my job, I had to abruptly leave Syracuse, and my lease, which I have here, states that I have to let him know 2 months ahead of time that I'm leaving, or else he keeps the security deposit.
There you go. And you had to leave Syracuse because, according to you, you worked at the same place that she worked.
Yes, and my...
Well, I mean, that's all hearsay. That all would be hearsay, why you had to leave. But you did leave.
Yes.
Now you are apart from each other. And I assume you're back in New York City?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
Working?
At the current time, I'm working with a web design company down in Miami, working from home.
I don't care where you're working from. You're working.
Yes.
Are you living alone or with your parents?
Currently, I'm living with my parents looking for another apartment.
Perfect. That sounds fine. And you're going to get your futon frame back. That's perfect. Goodbye. Good luck. Have a happy life.
Please excuse, you may step out.
He knows that he owes me the money.
She seems to forget the bills that I have paid.
And he refuses to pay me.
However, we had an argument.
He had another bill to pay.
And she didn't confront me as, you know, as a normal human being would.
He just didn't have the money.
She came at me with rage.
There was always an excuse.
You can't trust some women.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Slade versus Ellis. Step forward, please.
22-year-old nanny, Ivory Slade, is suing her former employer, 24-year-old bartender Crystal Ellis, for firing her without warning and keeping her belongings. Crystal is countersuing for damage to her home.
Miss Slade, you were hired as a nanny for Miss Ellis, according to what I've read in your complaint. You worked for her for a short time. She let you go. And it is your claim that she kept some of your personal property. When did you move into Mrs. Ellis's home?
March 26th, which was a Wednesday.
And tell me about your employment arrangement with her.
The arrangement was that I would move in. I'd work Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from 6 to 2:30 in the morning. She wouldn't pay me. The arrangement was I'd get room and board for free in exchange for taking care of her kids from 6 till 2:30.
Okay. So you started working on March 26th, and how long did it last?
A week.
So it didn't work out. You were not satisfied, I assume.
That's right.
Okay. And she's certainly entitled to do that.
Right.
Now, what items do you say that she kept?
Well, the things that were missing was my Sony camcorder. It was a regular Kodak 35mm camera. They took, my bath towel is missing. The change out of my piggy bank is missing. My wallet
You
is
think
missing.
she took that?
And my CDs.
You think she took all that?
I'm not sure. From what
Give me
she's
a
telling
break.
me, somebody moved
Miss Slade.
it. Yeah.
Miss Ellis, who do you live in your home with?
I live there right now with my 2 children, and I have another nanny that stays in the room that she did stay in.
Okay.
And
why do you have a nanny?
Because I work nights, and
what kind of work do you do?
I'm a bartender.
Okay. What kind of house is this?
It's about 5 years old. It's a very nice house.
Whose house is it?
My grandmother, she bought it for me.
You drive a car?
Yes.
What kind of car do you drive?
I drive a 2000 Pontiac Grand Am.
Do you have any savings?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Ever been arrested?
No.
Ever stolen property?
No.
Miss Slade, she doesn't look like the kind of person who would steal your property, madam. Miss Slade, according to your answer that you filed, madam, you say that the only thing that was missing were your CDs.
Okay, can I just say one thing?
Absolutely.
When I got there, I have 85 CDs. They're in a case like this. It's a cylinder case. Of course, I noticed that was missing because when I brought it over there, it was in the box with the pillows and the sheets so that they would be protected. I noticed it was missing because it wasn't in that box. And I'm thinking, how did they package these? They probably scratched up, broken, whatever. So that's the first thing I noticed. I'm telling you now, I don't think she took it. When she told me was that she didn't tell me she moved and another lady moved. She said the people who moving into the room moved my things. I called her numerous times, and she never answered her phone. She has call ID.
I don't believe that your camcorder was missing.
Well, okay, I'm
Do
sorry.
you understand that?
Yes, I understand that. But it
Very good. Is this your mother?
This is my mother who bought
and
the
just a
camcorder.
second, and I want you to notice your mother's face going like this. She probably didn't realize it, that it was going like this. I don't believe, so let's get over the camcorder.
Okay.
Good.
Good. Okay. We're over the camcorder. My CDs, the camcorder is only $200. It wasn't a big thing. My CDs.
I don't care what it was.
Okay.
I want you to understand that, Miss Slade.
Okay.
When I think that you're pulling the wool over my eyes or giving me a baloney story about one thing, I tend to doubt the other things that you're talking about. Do you understand?
Yes.
That's your problem.
All right.
So, I say you didn't have a camcorder that was missing. And unfortunately, your mother can't keep a straight face because while that was happening, she was shaking her head up and down like this.
Okay.
We understand each other?
Yes.
Good.
Okay. So when I spoke to her, she told me other people moved my things. When I spoke to her, I said, my things are missing. I'm telling her thinking she's going to say, well, I'll speak to her, I'll see what happened or whatever. She didn't do any of that. She just started getting
offended and cursing me out, saying, I didn't do, I said, I'm not, if you're telling me someone else moved my things, then I'm telling you they took my things. She keeps talking about her.
Things. When you're talking about things, what things did you tell her were missing?
Well, I told her that my CDs were missing.
Right. CDs.
Right.
And what else did you tell her was missing?
I told her, well, I don't know if you want me to say this, but I told her the camcorder was missing.
When did you tell her that the camcorder was missing?
I told her over the phone.
Did she ever tell you the camcorder was missing?
No, she never told me about a camcorder.
What did she tell you about?
First it was the CDs, then she told me some towels and a piggy bank with $10 of change in it.
Is the bank you're talking about with $10 and change the bank that you're talking about that was full of money?
It wasn't full. It's a pretty big piggy bank. It's a piggy bank about this long, this high, and it had $10 worth of change in it. I know.
How do you know?
Because I counted it.
When?
Before I left. I know it sounds weird, but I counted it.
It sounds very weird to take time from your very busy job, taking care of your child, and how many you have?
I have 2.
2, 3 children, to unscrew the piggy bank bottom and sit there and count out $10 worth of change.
Okay.
Do you
this was my
understand that?
day off. When I left, it was my day off. I was going to take it with me to get it changed into dollars.
So why didn't you?
Because when I was running late already, I knew when my appointment, I had things to do that day. That's why I was leaving. And I know by the time I finished everything I was going to do, it wasn't going to be enough time. Then what I was initially going to do.
So you put all the change back into the piggy bank?
Right.
Once you take it out and count it, that means you put it in piles, right?
Yes.
And if you take it out and take the trouble to take the money out and put it in piles, you keep it separate. You don't throw it all back together, because that would be stupid, because that's a big waste of time. So if you take it out, you put the quarters in one place, and then you say, even if I'm not going to take it today, I'll wrap this up, and this is $6 in quarters, this is $4 in nickels, wrap it up in something, in a sock, in a handkerchief, in a paper towel, and put it away. But now you tell me that you counted out $10. First you told me money. Now it turns out that it's $10. Ask you, how do you know it's $10? Because I counted it. When did you count it? I counted it before I was leaving on my... I mean, do you understand what I'm saying to you,
Yes,
Mr.
I
Wade?
understand what you're saying.
What I'm saying to you is, you didn't pay attention to what I said 5 minutes ago, which is, if you lie to me once, I don't believe the rest of what you tell me.
What I'm trying to tell you is I'm not lying to you.
Miss Ellis, this is what I want you to do, madam. The same people live with you now that were living with you before?
Yes. One lady.
One lady?
Yes.
This is what I want you to do. Does that lady have anything that plays CDs?
No. She owns nothing but clothes. I had to furnish her room for her.
When she came to you, she had nothing but clothes?
Nothing but clothes. Not even a car. I transported her where she needed to go.
And do you have access to her room?
Yes, I do.
Did anybody else come within the next few days to visit with her?
No, I don't allow anybody in my home.
Okay. Did you see, then, the next few days, a case of CDs?
No. I've never seen her CDs.
Miss Slade, I don't know where your CDs are. Can't help you. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step up.
Ex-boyfriend, painter Brian Mays, for an assault. Brian is countersuing for the return of his belongings.
Quiet in the courtroom, please. Now, this is case number 140 on the calendar in the matter of Earl versus Mays. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat, please.
Miss Earl, you and the defendant were sort of in a relationship, I gather, and you moved in with him along with, I think, your children. It is your claim that he became abusive, that you had to flee the apartment, that he owes you for rent because you paid the rent, that he assaulted you, you want to be compensated, that he kept some of your personal property, you want it back. Mr. Mays says that he was really nothing but nice to you, that you had a drug problem. Is that right?
Yes.
And that you were incarcerated at least twice when you were living with him, that he took care of your children, he enrolled them in school, that on the day of the alleged assault, you in fact assaulted him. He's got the police reports to prove it. And he is counterclaiming because he says that when you left the apartment, you stole some property that belonged to him. When did you meet Mr. Mays, Miss Earl?
In December at court. We met at the courthouse.
You met at the courthouse?
Yes, we did. I was moving from my condo. I had just sold it, and I was looking for a place to live, and me and Mr. Mays were kind of dating, but we weren't, like, going out together.
You met him in December. When did you move in with him?
In February. Me and my 2 children moved in with him.
How old are your children?
12 and 13 at the time.
What kind of a drug problem do you have?
I don't anymore. I did have a glass, speed, meth, and so does the defendant.
Where is the father of these two children?
In Fullerton. They live in Fullerton. My children are with their father right now.
Good. Are they there pursuant to a court order?
Now they are, yes.
Now, what was your arrangements with regard to rent? Your rent was $450 a month, according to your complaint?
Yes, ma'am.
And you paid him the rent for April, according to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what happened in April.
My birthday was on the 6th of April. We went to Vegas. We had returned. Me and Brian were having a lot of problems.
Did you look at me?
We were doing drugs at the time. I mean, I must admit I was fully into the drugs with the defendant at the time. I had recently sold my house, so I did have quite a bit of money. The night before in question, all this happened, I had went to the bank in the evening and took out, I believe it was approximately $2,500. I went out that evening and spent like $1,000 on drugs.
Where were your children?
That's a good question. They were with their father at the time. They had returned that night when I had come home. I was very sick at the time. I didn't even do anything. I was very sick. I came in the house and I pretty much laid down. That whole evening, Brian tried to start fights with me. He knew I had money, or he knew I had something, or whether money, drugs, I'm not sure. When I had gotten up that morning to get my kids ready for school, I had parked my car in front of the house instead of in our driveway in the back. And I went to go move my car and get my money. I had a lot of problems with him. I
don't want to hear about all your problems. You left your money in the car?
Yeah, exactly. So when I came back in, he grabbed me by the throat, took my money. We were fighting. He held me down. If I remember right, I got a couple good punches in there because he did hold me. I mean, I think I did get it. So he grabbed the phone, dialed 911. And the bottom line is he totally beat me up. This guy is 6'2". He beat me up, took my money.
Report?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I see the police report?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't have the report, do you?
I was not there.
You have photographs of your injuries?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
No, I'm talking to her. Do you have
I tried to get him. I couldn't get him through the courthouse, through my public defender.
You were charged with assault? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, and I was arrested, but they dropped charges.
But you were arrested?
Yes, definitely.
Well, this is a copy of an incident that happened on April 23rd.
It must be some of the other paperwork that you have there.
Yeah, well, this has to do with Miss Earl assaulting a police officer on April 23rd after she attempted to get her children out of school. And there was a restraining order. You understand that there was a restraining order at that time preventing you from being within 100 yards of your children?
Yes, but I did not know that at the time.
Well, then you knew it. You found out.
Yes, I did.
All right, good. Here we go. On Tuesday, April 8th.
Yes, ma'am.
There we go. Well, your two sons say that they heard Mr. Mays beg you to please move your car that you had parked in the street so that he could get his car out of the driveway to go to work. Begged you over and over again. You were so blitzed out on speed, you probably don't remember that. But your two sons remember that you hit him twice. He hit you not once. That's according to your own sons.
I know. It was 6 o'clock
So what do you want? What do you want from me?
My kids did not see him grab me by the neck and grab my purse and take my money from me.
Miss Earl, if you want to have a clear picture of what happens, you have to have a clear mind.
Yes.
When you are living your life in a drug-induced stupor, which you were on the night of April 8th.
Yes, ma'am.
I can't rely on anything that you say to me. Do you understand?
Okay.
Good. So I don't know what it is that you want. You're not going to get any money for an assault because the only thing that I have is a police report indicating that you assaulted him. That's all I have.
You can't tell just by looking at this guy he can beat the crap out of me?
I want to tell you something else. When somebody is spinning around the world on speed, they think they have the strength of 10 people. According to your own sons, he stood up and said to you, hit me if you have to. You hauled off and you hit him once and then you punched him again on the other side of his face. That's what your two sons said. He certainly, according to the police, has a history of domestic violence.
Oh, yeah, he was arrested. He was arrested.
So were you.
But
you were also arrested 2 weeks later in school when you made a scene and assaulted a couple of cops who went to get you away from your children's school.
I was never assaulted, no cops.
Oh, sure you were. You want me to read what the police officers say?
Please, yes.
Oh, sure.
I've never heard it.
I'll be delighted. Officers Tucker and Harris arrested Earl for her involvement in their case. On my way to the jail, Earl began to kick the back of my seat and call me profanities, such as a... She seemed irrational and very upset as she was being arrested. Okay. Want me to go on?
No, but that's not...
That's what you did to police officers. That's what you did to police officers.
You said I assaulted a police officer. That was calling him a... That's not assaulting somebody. That's not punching somebody. My God.
She told me that she had been sick all night from crashing on meth high. She went on to say that she was addicted to the drug and was coming down from being awake and under the influence of the drug for approximately 3 days.
True. But that doesn't say I assaulted a police officer, man.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It didn't say that you assaulted a police officer. It said you were a rational human being.
Oh,
okay, I have
sure
absolutely no evidence. I have absolutely no evidence that you were assaulted by the defendant. What you were suing for is the return of your rent because you paid April's rent, and as of April 8th, you were no longer in the house. And I find that you caused that yourself by assaulting the defendant, so you are not entitled to any rent back for April. Your personal property. Do you have any of her personal properties?
What?
Is not an answer. I expect an answer from you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
I left what was left out in the back, and she had come by with some friends and picked that up. There's a couple things that are left.
What's left?
On arrival?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Who was arrested the night of the 10th?
I was.
For what?
Because they found some of the plaintiff's paraphernalia in my...
Oh, my God. He is my drug dealer.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Pamela Earle says ex-boyfriend Brian Mays beat her up in a fit of rage. Brian claims it was Pamela who beat him up.
Put that down. What's left?
There's a box sitting back there. I don't know what it is.
Fine, but it's all boxed.
Yes.
Who is this person?
This is a witness that saw what was going on and watched her move the stuff out and take some things of mine.
Does he live next door?
He's my roommate. He was my roommate at the time.
All of our roommates, Your Honor.
Okay. All I want to know is where can she go to pick up her boxes? You want to take it to a local precinct at a set time?
It's right across the street. That'd be fine, Your Honor.
Fine. We'll give you a date.
He's going to have dead on arrival on all my crap,
Miss
Your
Earle,
Honor.
I want you to be very quiet. I'm losing patience with you very slowly. You want your property back. Whatever he has, he is going to bring to the police station 5 days from today's date. You can go and pick it up there. If you're not there 5 days from today's date, they're going to throw it out. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Now, you want to tell me what property you claim she stole from the house, sir?
I have a list of everything.
Oh, my God.
What's a family lanyard?
They're trading pins that me and my children had collected through the years going to Disneyland on our trips.
Your Honor, I only got a pack of cigarettes from the guy. That's the only thing I took.
You see, when you use drugs, you find it hard to control yourself.
That's my...
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Step up. Mr. Mays, have you been in a drug rehab program?
Yes, I have.
When was the last time you were in rehab?
Early 2002.
For how long?
14 months.
But then you fell off the wagon, Mr. Mays.
Yes, he did.
No, ma'am.
Oh,
yes,
sure
he did.
Sure you did. You know how I know that you did?
How's that?
Very easy. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't have taken her into your house. Because if you're in a program for 14 months and you want to stay clean, you don't pick up a drug addict in a courthouse and say, come on to my house. That's how I know. You understand each other?
I was trying to help.
I'm not interested in your being a knight in shining armor for this drug addict.
Yes, ma'am.
You may sound better. You may sound better than she does, but the drug rehab program didn't work, Mr. Mays. Did you see her take any property from the house? Look at me.
Yes, Your Honor.
Your name?
John River, sorry.
You ever in drug rehab?
Yes, Your Honor.
When did you leave for the last time?
3 years ago, Your Honor.
Tell me about what you saw Miss Earle take from Mr. Mays' home.
She came in approximately 9 or so at night. While Mr. Mays was...
What date?
Still incarcerated. I think that was the 12th.
What was he arrested for?
It was part of the domestic violence. So
Who was arrested the night of the 10th?
I was.
Yes, he was.
For what?
Because they found some of the plaintiff's paraphernalia in the...
Oh, my God. He is my drug dealer, Your Honor.
Paraphernalia.
And so they took you away?
Yes, they did.
Go ahead.
So when I came home that morning, house was in disarray. Saw a domestic violence pamphlet, so I proceeded to call the police station. Found out that Mr. Mays was incarcerated. About 4 o'clock in the afternoon, her boys showed up. I allowed them to take their property, their bikes, their father. About 9 o'clock at night, she showed up, and I let her take what I thought was hers. There was a brown folder that I believe had stamps in it. The Disney pins that were around the necklace, I did see those.
You did?
Yes.
Where did you see those?
They were hanging in the kids' room.
Did you have children living with you?
No, I do not.
What's a Gerber knife?
It's just a utility knife, like a...
What's a green bottle?
It's something that we picked up when we were in Vegas.
Mr. Mays.
Yes, ma'am.
This is nonsense. This is nonsense, Mr. Mays. We're not talking about anything. We're talking about a Smith & Wesson knife.
That was given to me by my brother in 1981. It was inscribed at Christmas.
So what do you want from me? You think she still has it? If she took it, you think she still has it? You think she knows where it is? You think she knows where it is? Mr. Mays, you should have been smart enough after being out of rehab for a few months and having been there 14 months not to pick somebody up who was a drug addict in a courthouse and bring him into your home. That was pretty dumb. You're lucky that all she took were a couple of pairs of sunglasses and a couple of kitchen knives. That's all. Your counterclaim is dismissed. As far as your claim is concerned, Ms. Earl,
yes,
I have absolutely no proof that he assaulted you. I have absolutely no proof that he owes you any rent. You chose to leave that day. You fled. You were high on drugs. You acknowledged that you took out $2,500 from the bank to go out and buy $1,000 worth of drugs, leaving your children home unsupervised because, according to you, they came home at some point that evening and you were dead to the world. I have absolutely no sympathy for you. All I can suggest to you is you have a responsibility. If you make 2 children, you're supposed to be a reasonable parent. Stop worrying about the past. Stop worrying about a couple of dollars that you paid and didn't use in rent. Start worrying about being a reasonable parent. And you, sir?
Ma'am, even though he witnessed her take the stuff, it's worth
no, he
nothing.
didn't. Listen to me. He said he saw her take a folder that he assumed had stamps in it. That's what he said. He said he saw her take a lanyard that was in the boys' room.
That was my kids' room, too, when they came over and stayed there.
He said they were in the boys' room, is what he said.
Yes.
My kids, when they come to visit me, they stay in that room.
No, that was the room I rented, ma'am.
Listen to me. That's what he said. You didn't say anything about a Smith & Wesson knife, did you?
No.
Good. All right. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
They're both drug dealers, both of them.
I never dealt no drugs to her. I never sold her any dope.
And trust me, if he says I beat the out of him, he's a wimp. Dude's a wimp.
She needs help.
Yeah.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Ercolani versus Wilby. Step forward, please.
Casino worker Mary Ercolani is suing her deceased friend's husband, casino worker Alan Wilby, for a gambling debt incurred by his late wife. Alan says Mary enabled his wife's addiction.
Ms. Ercolani, it is your claim that Mr. Wilby owes you $4,000 for a debt that was incurred by his wife.
That is correct.
He says he owes you nothing. So you want to tell me about this debt?
About the 3rd of August, she called me at work.
Where do you work?
For casinos.
Where is that?
That's in Las Vegas.
So she called you at your place of business, at your work, at your
Yes.
job, and said what?
She said, I'm going to get an early out tonight. Why don't you come over and we'll play for a while?
Play what?
Gamble. Play the machines. I went over to the Aladdin, and she said to me, do you have your credit card? I said, yes, I do. She said, can you get me $4,000? We went to the cage. We purchased tokens there, our chips. I gave her the tokens for $3,000, which she cashed out and got cash for, and 1,000 cash.
And what did you discuss with her about this money?
Well, she immediately wrote me this check that I have right here.
Let me see what she's got.
And she said, I'm due an inheritance from my great uncle, I believe she said. And she said, well, as soon as I get my inheritance, I'll give you your money back. And she has borrowed off me through the years and has paid me back $200 or $300 a month, but it was never this large amount. And so she handed me that check, and she said, as soon as I get the inheritance, you'll get it. I said, I'm going on vacation. I need my money back before going on vacation in October. My family are coming, and I got to have this credit available for my vacation. She said, oh, you have it back. I'm sure I'll have it by the end of August or early September at the latest. You'll have
Fine.
it long before
Did
then.
you get it back in October?
No. I called her, and we talked in September. She called me, and she said, Mary, I apologize, but I don't have your money yet. One of the aunts and a cousin have contested it. But as soon as I get the money, I'll give you your money. Or I'll write the date on the check, then I could deposit it in my account. And that's what my plans was, to deposit this check.
I understand what your plan was, but unfortunately, Mr. Wilby's wife took her own life in November. Is that right, sir?
15th of November.
Had your wife had a history of depression?
Yeah, she was on, I don't know what it was, Prozac, I think.
Did she have a gambling problem?
Big gambling problem. I tried to get her to go to Gamblers Anonymous, which she did a few times. And she'd do good, and then every time she'd get with this lady, she'd start all over again. I tried to get her to stay away from her, but according to both of them, they were really
That's not a
best
true
friends.
fact. We didn't get together that often.
Well, you already told me that you lent her
times a
money
year
over.
was too much.
Shh. You already told me that you lent her money frequently and that she paid you back.
And I would leave and go home, and she would go out on her own.
I don't understand why you would give her $4,000. I'm not necessarily doubting that you gave her the money, but if you knew that Mr. Wilby was concerned that his wife had a gambling problem, why would you give her $4,000?
Why wouldn't I give it to her? She was
Because-
my best friend.
Well,
She
listen-
asked me for it. She needed it. I gave it to her.
Well, then that's your problem. I just asked you a question. You didn't answer the question. I said, why would you contribute to her gambling problem?
Because I'm a gambler also, ma'am.
Well, then you deal with the $4,000. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Why does that excuse you? May step out.
If they didn't have a problem, they...
Is suing her ex-boyfriend's mother, Angela Ober, for unpaid utility bills and for stealing her identity. Angela is countersuing for the cost of living expenses.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 126 on the calendar in the matter of Rubel versus Ober.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat, please.
Miss Rubel, Miss Ober is your ex-boyfriend's mother.
Yes.
And there came a time in 2006, I believe, that you had difficulty at home.
Yes.
And you went to live with Miss Ober.
Yes, Your Honor.
And during that time, you allowed Miss Ober to open up utility accounts in your name.
It was actually when I was at school at Eastern Kentucky University when I allowed her to open gas and electric in my name.
When you were at school, you were not living with her?
No.
So you had already spent time in her house?
Yes.
So you had spent about a year in her house?
No, it was about 3 months.
That's not true.
How long was it?
She moved in February of 2006. Remainder of her senior year of high school, stayed the whole summer at my house.
Okay.
Also went to EKU, and I picked her up every weekend, every Friday.
But it was while you were at school that she opened the accounts with your permission in your name. Put that folder down, please. And it is your claim that two things. A, that she didn't pay those bills. And second, that she also opened up a cable account using your name, and that you did not give her permission to open.
No, I did not.
And that there's an outstanding bill on that. You wanted to take care of all the bills.
Yeah.
Excuse me, that's not true. Again, that's not true.
Just a second. Ms. Ober says, well, she had your permission to open the account. She didn't think that it was a big deal to open up the cable account, and she's counterclaiming because she says you should pay her for all the money she expended while you were living with her on you. So, Ms. Ober, I'm going to deal with that first. You had no contract with Miss Rubel when she moved in that she was going to compensate you for any money that you gave her. There's no indication in your counterclaim. So in order to have a contract, you have to have an agreement. And you had no agreement with her.
We had a verbal agreement.
No, you didn't. That's absolutely not true. If you had a verbal agreement, you would have said so in your answer. And you would have said so in your counterclaim, that you had an agreement that when she graduated from college or whatever, she was going to pay you back for all the money you laid out for her. You don't mention that at all. You want me to read you what you say?
No. At the end of it, I said she agreed to pay back in payment. I do believe, I thought.
You say, the plaintiff stayed in my home from February 2006 until February of 07. That is not true. That is not true.
She was away at college for 3 months and then moved back into my home. I moved her to college and moved her back home from college to my home.
Was she living with you continuously from February 2006 until February 2007?
No, ma'am.
Okay. She moved into your home because she was staying with her aunt and they had a big fight. Even though Tiffany and her aunt later made up, Tiffany begged and pleaded for me to let her stay with me.
I took her to and from school. I moved her down to Kentucky to go to college. I gave her lunch money, paid for her prom dress. Even though my son was a freshman, it was her senior prom. I paid for basically everything. So there was no agreement, because if there was an agreement, you had plenty of paper there to say there was an agreement. So you can't make an agreement where there was none. Now, you want to tell me why you opened up utility accounts in her name?
I have the letter that she took to the CG&E company where she opened it up from the landlord.
Why? Why didn't you open it up?
Because I had outstanding bills that couldn't be paid at that point in time. I didn't have the money. I have 3 children and was getting no child support. My ex-boyfriend and I were arguing. It was a bad environment for her, myself, and my children.
Yes.
We had to get out. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. Had to get out.
Well, just tell me what she said to you and what you said to her.
I got into an argument with my ex-boyfriend. I was crying. There was chaos. The house was tore up from fighting and carrying on, and she came to me crying and said that we could move out of here. I said, I can't get the electric in my name or the cable because I have an outstanding bill. I was working on paying them. I have paid them off. Everything is in my name.
Well, what about the bills that she's getting now, Miss Ober?
Because she agreed to pay them when we moved out.
No, she didn't.
Yes, she did.
No, she didn't, Miss Ober. I don't even have to ask her that. She said, I'll help you out. If you can't put them in your name, put them in my name.
That's also not true. I didn't offer. She asked me.
That's not true.
Why didn't you pay the bills?
Because I was paying all the bills. I paid the rent. I paid the food. I paid for her clothes. I paid for her to go to a Bengals-Steelers game. I paid for everything under the sun for her. And when I couldn't pay for her to do the things that she wanted to do, go shopping and do all the other things,
well, just
then she moved out.
Miss Ober, when she was living with you, where was she working?
At Photo Lab at Kroger's, and then she got a job at a restaurant.
When she was living with you, she was working at Photo Lab?
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
No, actually it's not. I was working at the Village of Addison in the clerk's office.
I didn't understand a word you just said.
In the Village of Addison for the clerk.
And what were you doing with the money that you were earning?
I paid for a lot of prom, too.
You paid for a lot of prom. What else did you pay for?
I paid for lunch sometimes, and that's probably about it.
And what about the ex-boyfriend? What does he do?
He's in high school.
He's 16 years old.
Okay. Very good. Can I see the bills, please?
Yes.
And when you moved in with Miss Ober, you were in high school?
Yes. Here's everything.
I would like to also say something. Her aunt, when she moved out of her house, received child support from her mother and father for her while she lived in my home.
You should have sued her aunt.
And Tiffany is still on a Medicaid card through Ohio and is not living in Ohio. She lives in Indiana. She works at the BP in Indiana.
Miss Ober, first of all, the second part was vicious. First part of what you just told me was really your fault. If she was living with you and you were supporting her and somebody else was getting support for her from her parents, you should have marched right into family court and said, the support should come to me, not to somebody else.
Well, I'm not going to fight a year and a half to get money that is not going to come to me anyway.
But this money is money that you owe. You owe money for the utilities.
No, she was living in my home. She agreed to pay them.
I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe for a second that she agreed to pay them. If she agreed to pay them, she wouldn't have let them build up like this.
It was 2 months of service.
Right. I know that you're accustomed to not paying your bills, but somebody who's just starting out in life is not accustomed to not paying their bills. You know you didn't pay your bills. That's why you couldn't put the utilities on in your name.
Because I had an ex-boyfriend who wouldn't let me get ahead.
Listen to me. It's always somebody else's fault. Is that what you're saying to me?
No, I'm not.
It's the ex-boyfriend's fault. It's her fault. It's the aunt's fault.
No, I tried to contact her aunt to take her back home. She wouldn't talk to me.
It's always somebody else's fault. Is that what you're telling me?
No.
You're a victim. Well, you'll always be a victim.
I'm a victim of a 19-year-old.
You'll always be a victim. The answer is you didn't pay your bills. Not that your ex-boyfriend didn't let you get ahead. If you're a big enough girl to make 3 children, that's what you have, right? Mm-hmm. Then you're big enough to get away from an ex-boyfriend who wouldn't let you get ahead. Not soon enough to pay your bills.
You know, I took her in the kindness of my heart. You know, and then after she moved out, her other aunt said to me, Tiffany goes wherever Tiffany's going to reap the benefit.
So whose fault was that?
I guess mine, and it'll never happen again.
Right. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $886. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She was 18 years old, and I helped her, and she agreed to pay the bills and didn't.
I got the money back that I deserved.
She was out on the street, basically, with nowhere to live because her aunt chose not to let her come back home.
I did move back home, actually, in June of 2006, and I stayed there until I went to college.
Never. Again, will I let someone come into my home?
I trusted her, and she lied.
Not again. I won't trust anyone.
I'm not really selfish.
I won't do anything for anybody anymore.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Browning versus Cranford, step forward.
Brack and Marla Browning are suing their son's former friend, David Cranford Jr. for crashing their motorcycle after Brack asked him not to ride it. David insists he was given permission to take the bike.
Miss Browning, were you there during this incident?
No, I was at work.
So you don't know anything other than what your husband told you,
Well,
is that
David
right?
called me.
Why don't you have a seat? Okay. According to your complaint, Mr. Browning, Mr. Cranford, who is a friend of your son's, took your motorcycle. Your son was with him that day and rode it and crashed it. And you
Yes,
want him
ma'am.
to pay to fix it.
Yes, ma'am.
That seems like a relatively simple case. However, Mr. Cranford seems to feel as if it's everybody else's fault. So he's going to tell me about it. On what date did this happen?
It happened November 13th, I believe.
And where were you?
I was down the street from my home working.
What kind of work do you do?
I work for the Red Cross, but on this day, I was helping a friend of mine,
Doing what?
clearing brush, working on the farm.
And where was your son?
He was at David's house.
And he had gotten to David's house on the motorcycle.
Yes, that's what I
Is
understand.
that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Stand up next to you for. So tell me what happened on that day, Mr. Browning.
The boys came over to where I was working and asked if they could ride the motorcycle, and I told them no.
Who's they?
My son and David.
Well, your son was already riding the motorcycle.
I wasn't aware of that at the time. I was working down the street. They came and asked if David could ride the bike.
That's
And
David.
This is David. I told him no, that there was no insurance on the bike.
Why wasn't there insurance on the bike?
It had just lapsed a week earlier. It was late October. In our part of the country, it's very cold in the wintertime. We normally don't ride in the wintertime, so.
So you don't have to pay for it during the wintertime.
Yes, ma'am.
How did you get to David's house?
I had rode the bike down. At the time, we lived not too far from where he lived.
Did you have permission to take the bike out?
Yeah.
Who gave you permission to take the bike out?
Nobody. Normally, I just get on it and go.
Mr. Browning, had you told your son that the insurance lapsed on the bike?
No, ma'am. It had just lapsed a week before, and I didn't think I had to.
Well, you had to because he was using the bike.
Yes, ma'am.
So when they came and asked if David could ride the bike, you said no.
I said no.
And then what happened?
I went back to work. The boys were up at the street. Where I was working was several hundred yards off the
Well,
street.
then I assume you said it has no insurance on it. So what did your son say to you when you said it has no insurance?
At the time, it was David that came up and asked me.
I thought you said the boys came up.
They had called just a couple minutes earlier. They were right down the street. Frank asked me if David could ride the bike. I said no.
Just a second. Mr. Browning, we can't make things up as we go along, sir.
No,
The
ma'am.
first story that, I know you're very polite, and that's very nice, but the first thing you told me was you were working clearing brush. The boys came up and asked you if David could ride the bike, and you said no because it has no insurance. Now you're changing that story. Now you want to tell me what the story is you're going to tell me now.
Frank had called me about 5 minutes earlier that they were down the street and that David wanted to ride the bike. I said no, and I think David talked him into coming down to where I was working to ask again.
Well, don't tell me what you think.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, who came up to where you were working?
Mr. Cranford.
Only.
Frank was there, but
That's what I want to know.
Yes, ma'am.
Frank was there. How did they get there?
David rode the motorcycle. Frank was following him in David's car.
So when you saw him, he was already on the motorcycle.
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you say?
I told them they shouldn't be riding the bike
Why?
because there was no insurance. David didn't have a motorcycle license, for one thing.
Did you tell your son that there was no insurance on the bike?
I believe I did. I was
Is that
speaking.
right, sir?
You may have.
I was speaking to Mr. Cranford at the time.
Well, it would seem to me if you saw that the bike was out, Mr. Browning, and if it had no insurance on it, and the reason you let the insurance lapse was because you were coming into the winter months, you would have said to your son, put that bike away immediately because there's no insurance on it, unless you were allowing him to ride it without insurance.
No, ma'am. They, being teenagers, even though Mr. Cranford's 27, he acts 17 like my son, and they argued with me. And I got upset that they wouldn't take no for an answer and went back to work. I wasn't going to stand there and argue with them.
Who was arguing?
Both of them were wanting to ride the bike.
What did your son say to you?
I don't recall, other
Do you
than they
recall?
were not taking no for an answer.
Do you recall?
I argued with him a little bit over the phone, and when he said no, we hung up the phone, and I told David what he said, and David said, well, let's ride across the street, and I'll ask him.
And when David said, let's ride across the street, did he get on the bike?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Mr. Cranford, you knew you had no permission to get on the bike.
Partially, yes, ma'am.
What do you mean partially? There's no partially. It's like being a little bit pregnant, sir. Either you have permission or you don't have permission.
Well, I didn't know I was a definite no yet. I thought it was
No. What does it mean,
it.
no? I want to tell you something. You better stay away from girls, sir. No means no. There's no halfway no.
No means no.
Yes,
now,
ma'am.
if you're saying to me, I thought I could change his mind,
That's what I was thinking.
then you don't ride the bike there.
It was right across the street.
I don't
pretty
care
much.
if it was right around the street. I don't care if it was from here to here. You didn't have permission to get on his bike,
Yes, ma'am.
and you crashed the bike.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me how that happened, David.
I was traveling down 71, and it's
But
a
you had
mountain.
no permission to do that.
Well, at the time, Frankie come up at my house, and I had to go.
You
to-
already knew the word was no. Then you went up to change his mind. And what happened when you went up to change his mind?
From my understanding, when I was standing there, Your Honor, I didn't get a definite yes or no. It was just more like a I don't care kind of attitude. Is what, the
He
way I
already
took it.
told you no.
He didn't come right out to me and say absolutely no. He was just giving excuses of why not, you know,
I
and
love
why
the
to.
answer. I was hoping he'd be as dumb in person as he was in his answer.
He's not disappointing you.
He's not disappointing me. Let's get to riding the bike and how this incident happened that rendered Mr. Browning's bike $5,000 in damage.
Like I said, I was coming down the mountain, and there's some twisty turns on it, and some of the people that drive, the local people that drive around through there, they travel really fast up through there, and a car was coming around the corner that I was approaching, and it came off into my lane, and I had to swerve to the right to avoid hitting a head-on collision and killing myself. And when I did, it's a crotch rocket motorcycle, and when it hit the grass, the wheel just turned, yanked on me, and it started flipping, and I rolled down the road about 55 miles an hour, flipping down the road.
You were flipping down the road 55 miles an hour? You
Yes,
must have
ma'am.
been going very fast, Mr. Cranford.
Well, the speed limit was 55.
Do you have a license to drive a motorcycle?
No, ma'am. I've got a driver's license, but not a.
Do you
I didn't
need a
realize I had to have a motorcycle license to drive. I figured it was just like a driver's license. I didn't even know at the time.
Well, how many times have you driven a motorcycle?
I've driven it a few times back when I was younger, but
But a what?
I haven't recently.
Well, if you don't drive a motorcycle for a long time and you don't have any special training, it would seem to me that despite the fact that the speed limit is 55 miles an hour, I would not, if I were prudent. Do you know what that means?
Yes, ma'am.
If I were prudent, I wouldn't go on a twisty, windy road where everybody goes very fast, because that's what you say that you knew about this
Yes,
road
ma'am.
that you were on, because you come from the area, so you know that everybody goes very fast. I wouldn't take a motorcycle that I had no experience with and drive on a dangerous road and go 55 miles an hour. Brown,
Yes, ma'am.
I got it. But I want to tell you something. You're going to have this bike fixed? Do you have the estimate to fix
Yes,
it?
ma'am.
What's the estimate to fix it?
Estimate comes to over $7,000.
I wouldn't let your son drive it again for a while because he is complicit in this, despite the fact that he's 17 years old. And you are how old?
27.
Because he didn't have to let him ride it.
I feel like he was influenced by the older kid.
Well, Mr. Browning, that may be. But if you let him ride the motorcycle again and let him have it back, he hasn't learned anything from it.
I agree.
And if you're going to entrust what could be a weapon to a child's hand, you have to assume the consequences.
Well, my son's been through a motorcycle safety course. I sent him through that before he ever
doesn't know
rode
the
it.
word no.
Most
He may-
17-year-olds don't. And
Well, that's what I'm saying to you, Mr. Browning. But for the fact that your son let him ride this motorcycle, we wouldn't be standing here today. And that was very bad judgment on his part. Immature judgment. He could easily be swayed. This time he was swayed by somebody who's 27. Next time it could be somebody who's 14. And if it's somebody who's 14 and they get hurt on your motorcycle, you're not going to have a home anymore. Or a
they're
car,
lucky someone didn't get
or
hurt.
a motorcycle, or anything else. So, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. It's your fault. You got to say, my fault, my bad, my responsibility. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I got the phone call not 10 minutes after going back to work.
When I got down the road, the inevitable happened.
Is suing his ex-girlfriend, Lana Speakman, for the return of his belongings and for the money he invested in a Dodge Durango.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 78 on the calendar in the matter of Windhausen versus Speakman.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Mr. Windhausen, you and the defendant lived together for a period of time, and it is your claim that at the time she broke up with you and told you to leave, she kept your property. She kept the truck that you had been making payments on and some other personal property that you had purchased for the house.
Correct.
Ms. Speakman said everything is hers.
Yes.
When did you move in together?
About 6 of 04.
June of '04.
Right.
How old are you?
I'm 24.
How old are you?
34.
You have children?
No.
What kind of work do you do, Mr. Wendhausen?
I'm a welder.
How long have you been welding?
About a year and a half now.
Make good living?
Decent. It's fair.
Tell me what you make.
I'm about $14.50.
An hour?
An hour, yes.
How much did you make last year?
How much did I make last year? About $12,338.
You worked full-time?
Yes, I did work full-time. I got laid off in December of '05, and I was rehired back on, so I had
When?
In February.
But other than that, you work continuously?
Correct.
And what did you do with your money?
What did I do with my money?
Why do you keep asking me a question? I know the question that I asked. What did you do with your money when you got your money, when you were living with Miss Speakman?
I cashed my checks at the U.S. Bank, and I went and paid it to, just gave her cash.
Well, how much cash did you give her?
Approximately about $340 per week.
It was different every week.
Tell me about this truck.
This truck, I needed a vehicle to get back and forth to work. I did not have one. I wasn't able to put one in my name because my credit wasn't the greatest. And at the time, I was working on getting a work permit to make a commute back and forth to work.
What did your bad credit have to do with getting a work permit, Mr. Wendhausen?
Because I wasn't able to put the truck in my name.
Did you have a driver's license?
I did not. I just had a work.
Well, that's an answer why you can't have a truck in your name, sir.
Correct.
So you were going to drive this truck despite the fact that you didn't have a license?
No, until I got my work permit.
Did you drive the truck without
I did,
a license?
Yes.
So Miss Speakman put the truck in her name and allowed you to drive it without a license?
Correct.
Put your hand down, I get to you. And who made the payments on the truck?
I did.
How much were the payments every month?
Approximately about $340 a month.
$340 a month.
Plus
It's exactly the
insurance.
same amount that you gave her. You said a week. That's a number you must like. You told me you gave her $340 a week when you cashed your paycheck, and now you tell me that your truck payment was $340.
That was excluding making the payments on the refrigerator and the stove and the bedroom set.
Just a second. How much was the truck payment?
About $340.
And how much did you used to give her every week from your paycheck?
Around $340, yes.
Wrong.
He's got it down, and he's not going to waver. And how did you make the truck payment?
I gave it to her in cash.
Now, because we're just dealing with the truck so far, when did you kick him out?
July 7th of '06.
Why?
Because I found out he was doing drugs. He actually, July 1st is actually when we broke up. He couldn't get a ride until July 7th. He stole $400 out of my purse, said he was going to the store to get ice, and didn't come back for like 12 hours because he was doing drugs.
What kind of drugs does he do?
Cocaine.
Have you ever seen him do cocaine?
No, I haven't. He told me.
What did he say?
A couple months prior, he took a lot of money. We had a joint checking account for a little while because I went to get money out and all the money was gone. Well, then I questioned him about it, and he finally told me that he was doing cocaine, that he had a drug problem, and then he didn't want to tell me what the drug was, and then he finally told me it was cocaine.
How much money did he take out of the joint account?
About $1,500.
Do you remember when?
It was March and April. He did it on 2 different occasions where he took hundreds of dollars out a couple times. I mean, hundreds, like $600 a night.
It's not true.
No?
No.
Don't do drugs.
No, I don't.
You willing to take a drug test?
I am willing, yes.
Willing to take a hair follicle test?
That's fine.
Right after court?
It's fine.
You understand that if you go for one of these tests, they will, and if it's positive, they won't let you be a welder. You understand that?
Correct.
You prepared to sign a release that the drug test results can be sent to your employer? Oh, is not an answer.
I have smoked weed, yes.
Weed
So-
we're not talking about, sir. We're talking cocaine.
All right.
Got me?
Yeah, I got you.
Perfect. If you have a problem and you're 24 years old, you better get rid of your problem. Do enough cocaine, sir, you're going to have a brain like mush. You know, when you start up here, you can have a brain like mush. When you start over here, it's over very, very soon. How could you take money out of a bank account?
It's my money, too.
Well, if you're putting in $300 a week to run a household, you have rent, you have food, you have gas, you have electric, you have all the other stuff. And was he giving you an extra $340 for the truck payment?
No, he wasn't.
He gave me, his checks were different every week. So he gave, sometimes it was only $100. Sometimes he didn't give me any money at all.
Yeah, because if he's making $15 an hour, earning $12,000 a year just doesn't,
well, that was
doesn't make it.
The truck payment was $320, and it did come directly out of my bank account ever since I bought
Well,
the
it
truck.
may have come directly out of your bank account. That doesn't mean, quite frankly, Ms. Speakman, that he wasn't giving you money. My question is, was he giving you money earmarked for this car payment, or was he giving you a certain amount of money every week?
It was different amounts every week because, like I said, sometimes his checks were always different. Sometimes he would give me nothing. Sometimes he would give me $100. There was a couple times he probably gave me $300.
And what about the monthly truck payment?
What?
Did he give you money for the
Directly
monthly
for
truck
that?
payment?
No.
In cash is my question.
No.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious, how could she make the payment for a car payment, a truck payment, a house payment, and all the other utilities if I was not paying any money to that household?
She didn't say you weren't paying any money.
But how could she afford
I make
those
a lot
vehicles?
more money than he does.
What kind of work do you do, Ms. Speakman?
I work at a factory.
And how much do you earn an hour?
$22 an hour.
And how much did you earn last year?
$50,000. And
you were earning $15 an hour, which is, you know, only a third less, and you only made $12,338, sir. That figure that you told me specifically, $12,338, which is what you said you earned last year, only 2 months you were out of work. Ms. Speakman.
Yes.
What did you do with the truck?
I still have the truck. I'm still making payments on the truck.
What are you going to do with the truck?
I'm probably going to keep it.
Now, if Mr. Wendhausen is prepared to get a loan for $5,000 in his name, are you prepared to give him the truck?
No.
Sure. Sure you are. Listen to me, Mr. Wendhausen. You come back to me with a fully committed loan in your name for $5,000, and I will direct Miss Speakman to turn over the truck to you. Do you understand?
I do.
But she certainly doesn't want to give you a truck that's in her name, and she's certainly not going to give you the value of it or what you claim to put in, because you can't prove what you put in to the truck unless you have canceled checks.
No, I paid everything cash.
Cash.
Yes.
Right. So go get yourself a loan, and then Miss Speakman is going to turn over the truck to you. You think that's going to happen, Miss Speakman?
I don't think he'll be able to get a loan.
Correct. Correct. But if he can...
But what about I paid it, like, for the whole year that he hasn't been there?
It was sort of a fluid situation. Right. But I certainly don't think that you ought to get stuck with this truck and turn it over to him. And I certainly don't believe that he, each and every month, paid you his portion of the expenses as well as the $340 for the truck, because he didn't make that much money.
Right.
Now, what other property do you claim, sir, is yours that she kept when you
I have
moved
a
out?
GE arranged stove that I
When
purchased.
did you purchase that, sir?
I purchased it in about 11:05.
And you moved out in?
7/06.
And did you eat while you were there?
I did, yes.
And did you use the stove?
I only had it for about a month or two before I moved out.
Show me proof that you purchased it, sir.
It's right here.
He just said we got the stove in November, and he moved out in July. So
I got it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
I see it's purchased by you, Mark Wendhausen.
Right.
Show me how you paid for it.
I paid cash.
I have a check.
Can I see it, please?
These are the 2 payments I made. These are the 4 payments that were made total.
Okay. She's got proof of the payments, sir.
Proof of the payments that I paid?
Well, show me your payments. It doesn't say that this was paid in cash.
I paid those payments, ma'am.
To whom?
To Turner Electric.
Show
in
me.
cash. Don't you see there's cash? She writes checks. I pay cash.
What else, Mr. Wendhausen?
I also have receipts here for refrigerator.
When you moved into the house, Mr. Wendhausen, was there a refrigerator in the house?
Yes. Can you please tell me where all my money was going?
All your $12,000?
Well, I lived there for two and a half years.
All your $12,000?
His money was going up his nose. Mine
Just a
was
second.
paying the bill.
Mr. Wendhausen, I don't think that you understand, sir. That barely supports a person. You don't get it.
I'm not getting it. I'm making payments that, you know.
Show me that you're still making payments.
I'm done. Those are the receipts. That's paid off.
And you paid for it, and you used the refrigerator, and you used the stove while you were in her house?
Yeah, it's my
Goodbye,
name.
Mr. Wendhausen.
Do you think I could take
I think you have a problem, and I think that you really have to take care of your problem. If you manage to secure a loan for the truck, I am going to direct Ms. Speakman to turn the truck over to you. We will recalendar this case as soon as the clerk receives indication that you've received a loan, and I will direct this truck that you want to be turned over to you. Do you understand?
Okay, I do, but...
Good. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I just think the case was unfair, and it's bull.
The money started disappearing, and I found out he was doing drugs.
That is not true.
I told him to try to get help, and he didn't get help, so I kicked him out after he stole $400 out of my purse.
Whatever, man.
I probably won't be going out with younger guys anymore.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Mixon versus Glade, step forward, please.
James Mixon is suing his former live-in girlfriend, Keisha Glade, for the return of his furniture and baseball cards.
Mr. Mixon, you and the defendant lived together for a period of time in her home.
Yes.
And according to you, she unceremoniously kicked you out and kept some furniture that belongs to you.
Yes.
You want it back. Ms. Glade says that you were nothing but a lazy bum during the time that you lived there. You paid no rent. Least you could do is leave the old furniture there. It's not worth very much anyway. She is counterclaiming. She says that you should have paid rent, but you didn't, and that you slashed her tires because you got mad at her. So let me make this simple. The fact that he should have paid rent, you are absolutely correct. But that doesn't mean he's going to pay rent, because you allowed him to be a bum.
True.
So you were an enabler. How long did he live with you?
For a year and a month.
And how many months of those 13 months that he lived with you did he pay rent?
None.
None? Why are you laughing?
Because that was funny.
No, she's not funny. I'm funny.
Yeah.
How many months did you pay rent, Mr. Mixon?
None, like she said.
You were a bum.
No.
Well, if you don't pay rent, you're a bum.
We never had an agreement on that.
You don't have to have an agreement.
I was supposed to take care of the other bills in the house. She was supposed to do the rent.
What other bills did you take care of?
PG&E, water, and cable.
How much was that a month?
About $600.
And you would pay all those bills, and you have proof that you paid those bills?
Yes, and
I'd like to see.
Here's some of the bills. This doesn't go with that.
And proof that you paid them?
I got the receipts. If I gave her the receipt, it was only because she dropped me off at work early.
What's the Salvation Army?
We went and bought a computer desk and a TV stand that I paid for. She said I don't do nothing, though.
When did you buy this furniture?
I bought it maybe a month after I moved in with her. I came in with a futon. I came in with a stereo set. I came in with that set of baseball cards right there.
Oh, well, that you're going to... That set of baseball
cards? That's mine. I had since I was...
I don't have a problem giving it back to him.
Can I see the set of baseball cards, please? Oh, one of my children would be bonkers over those baseball cards. I have to take a look at that. Are you a real collector, sir?
Yes. Had those since I was in the
mint
6th grade.
condition, or what kind of condition?
They're in mint condition.
Really? You know they're worth a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Are these Topps baseball cards?
Topps and Fleers.
Well, Fleers aren't worth as much.
I know.
Right?
That's why I try to stay more with Topps.
See, I know a little bit about it.
I see.
Okay. Give him back his baseball cards, Butcher Bird. Surprised he left without them.
I also had a pending restraining order which granted me possession rights of the bed, the couch, the TV, and the lamps that he's here.
Show me. You mean property restraint that number 13 is circled? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I actually filed it. It asked me what possessions that I still had for me to temporarily keep possession of.
Well, you can't temporarily keep possession of his property anymore. He's going to pick it up. You have a temporary restraining order. You have to send somebody to get your stuff.
Okay, but
Sir, within 5 days. Do you understand?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
I just want my rent.
Just a second. Listen to me. You're not entitled to any rent. You didn't have a contract with him for rent.
We had a verbal agreement. The whole initial reason why he moved in was because I needed financial help.
Listen to me very carefully. Madam, if you let somebody live with you for 13 months and they're not paying rent, you don't come to complain about it now. He's getting his furniture back. He got his cards back. Now we're going to hear about your tires, and I don't want to hear any nonsense about rent.
My witness here saw him slash the second tire on that day.
Your name?
Leandra Whitmore.
On what day did you allegedly see Mr. Mixon slash a tire?
I forgot.
No, don't look over there. Don't look over here. Look over here.
I forgot what day it was on, but it was the same day as the first tire. We were at the studio recording. I'm a recording engineer. I record her. And I heard the car skirt by the first time. I was sitting at the computer. And I had came outside. When I came outside, I saw him by her left tire. Then he ran and got in his car and drove off.
Did you tell her about it?
Mm-hmm. I came right in.
Did you file a police report that day?
No, we didn't do a police report.
Why not?
Because that was the first incident of numerous amounts of incidents.
What difference does it make?
Because I didn't want to get in it because he's family with my uncle, and I didn't want to say anything, but things keep happening.
Did you ever file a police report?
No, ma'am.
I filed one later after his witness started harassing us.
I mean, this lady?
Yes.
She has nothing to do with this case. She has nothing to do with me. She has nothing to do with anything that's going on here today.
I agree.
The only thing that I have to worry about today is, am I satisfied that he slashed a tire? I'm not so sure you saw anything. Sit down.
Thank you.
I'm not convinced you saw anything. I am convinced that you're going to get your old furniture back. 5 days. You make the arrangements to get it, send somebody else to get it. And who is this person?
That's the neighbor. She the one who pulled my clothes in when Keisha threw my stuff out in the rain.
Okay.
Absolutely not. She's the nosy hag.
Listen to me. Whose neighbor is she?
She's my
Hers.
neighbor.
Okay, well, good luck. Bye.
Why is our excuse for step out?
He could have his beat up crackhead
Son, 22-year-old Christopher Nelson, for the value of a Corvette. Dennis claims Christopher illegally sold the vehicle.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 171 on the calendar, the matter of Nelson versus Nelson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. Nelson, this is your son.
Yes.
You were married to his mother, and did you formally adopt him?
Yes.
And you are now divorced from his mother? When was that divorce?
September.
Of?
06.
According to your complaint, you believe that your son owes you for a car that you gave to him, titled in his name, but with a condition. And the condition was the car would be returned to you if and when he joined the Navy.
He told me he was already signed up for the Navy in January.
Right. So that was the condition that you indicated.
To get him off of a motorcycle that he was riding rather recklessly.
Right. And you said to him, here's a car, putting it in your name. When you go into the Navy, I want you to give it back.
Right.
Did you ever go into the Navy?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Nelson, I read your whole complaint, and your whole complaint has sort of a convoluted story about certain trust that you had in your son to do the right thing. He took the car, he sold it to somebody else, then he took it back, then he sold it to another person. Bottom line is, I read your complaint very carefully, sir, and your complaint is clear. Even if I believe what you said in your complaint, which was you gave him this car, you transferred the title to him, is that correct? He insured the car himself. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you pay for the insurance yourself?
Yes, Your Honor.
And how long did you drive the car?
Only for a couple months, Your Honor.
Then you sold it and bought something else.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Nelson, stop playing with your papers.
Okay.
Because you're not going to understand what I'm saying to you unless you pay attention.
Gotcha.
If I believe what you say in your complaint, you made him a conditional gift. And the condition of that gift was that the car would be returned to you when he entered the Navy. But he has not entered the Navy.
Okay.
So how can you get the car back? Or the value of the car?
Okay.
Do you understand? I know that you're angry with him. I don't know exactly why. Maybe we can resolve that. But the conditional gift that you made to him it becomes a permanent gift if he never joins the Navy. Is it your intention to join the Navy?
No, Your Honor.
Why not?
I decided to keep pursuing my medical field that I am now.
And not join the Navy? Okay. Ever. When did you give him the car, Mr. Nelson, just for my own information?
September 27, 06.
And you titled it in that same month. And when did you sell the car, sir?
Down in October, around.
Who'd you sell it to?
I didn't personally meet them. My stepfather actually had it in Desert Hot Springs, and he sold it for me.
To whom did you sell it?
To a private party out of Banning.
Stand up. How much did you sell it for?
Your Honor, Christopher owed me some money, So he'd gotten another vehicle. So in lieu of the money that he owed me.
What did he owe you money for?
Personal loans.
Explain it to me.
Just everyday living, helping him with insurance, paying for some of his tuitions through furthering his education in the EMS field, things of that nature.
How much did he owe you?
About $4,500. Educations are expensive.
How long have you been married to his mother?
Since July of '06.
You were divorced in September of '06. So how could you be married in July of '06?
It was a typo on the court's behalf, and we're since straightening that out in litigation.
What do you mean you're straightening that out? What does that mean?
Well, what it means is there was a typo that instead of putting a 9 when the divorce would have been finalized, it would look like a 7. So we went forward with the wedding. Come to find out later that it was a typo, so we're in litigation now at the courts to rectify that.
Why don't you just get married again?
We will, sir. Ma'am, when we're done with this. Pardon me.
May I interrupt?
Just a second. So let's assume he owed you $4,500 in the relatively short time that you've been together with his mother. How much did you sell the car for?
That exact amount.
To whom?
I don't know the name of the person. I took the car to my place of employment, placed a for sale sign in it, and 5 hours later sold the car. I don't know the name of the people. I really didn't expect this.
A man or a woman?
It was a man for his daughter.
Did you get a check or cash?
I received cash.
Do you know that I don't believe a word that's coming out of your mouth?
I'm sorry.
Do you know
I'm sorry.
that I don't really believe a word that's coming out of your mouth? Do you trust him?
I know it was true.
Well, let me tell you something. Most of what he just told me was not true.
I beg to differ, Your Honor.
Oh,
on this day that
you can do all you like, sir, but I understand.
I just swore between God and this court to tell the truth.
Quiet. I understand why Mr. Nelson is annoyed. The truth of the matter is, he made a conditional gift, and it didn't work out the way he had assumed it was work out. He certainly wasn't giving his son a car to give to you, to give you money. And so I can understand why he's annoyed. I understand why you're annoyed, sir.
Thank you.
Okay?
When I get a chance, I'd like to explain.
Go ahead.
First, the car was stolen from her. She has a judgment on it.
A judgment? What do you mean it was stolen from you?
He sold the car to her, not to him.
Who sold the car to her?
Christopher sold the car to her.
Which is Christopher?
Christopher.
You sold the car to this lady?
For $7,500.
I'm speaking.
No, Your Honor.
You did not.
No, Your Honor.
There's the judgment.
I'd like to explain.
Go ahead.
When I received the car, I heard from a friend that I believe Kelly was looking for a car around $5,000, $7,500 or so. And so me and her were talking and everything, but she only had about $2,500 to give me. I knew she was going through some hard time, so we made a verbal agreement that she was to have possession of the car and I was to retain ownership until final payment. After a couple of weeks, I kept getting the same response that...
How much money did she give you?
She gave me $2,500 as a down payment. And then I was still waiting on $5,000 when she went down to her security lockbox at quote-unquote Pachanga. Well, after many weeks of trying to talk to her and give me the same excuse, it wasn't until after I talked to a lawyer and a detective from the Murrieta Police Department about the legal part of it that I was in full right to go and repossess my vehicle.
What'd you do with the $2,500?
She took me to court.
And what happened with it?
I even told her that I would give her the back.
What happened with it?
I was unable to attend.
What do you mean you were unable to attend?
I had a class that I was already enrolled in to further my...
Go ahead.
I have a witness in the back.
You didn't know you could appeal.
For what?
Christopher.
I will testify.
To what?
To whatever you want to hear.
Well, I
He'll
don't want to testify to whatever I want to hear.
He will testify to the fact that he did steal the car. He was paid in full.
Just a second. Just a second. You have a judgment against him for $7,500?
She has the judgment.
You have a judgment against him, so there's no question.
Here's the bill of sales for the other car.
A court has already ruled on that.
On that one.
On this one.
But the other witness will testify that he did take the car?
No, I got it. He said he repossessed the car, and he couldn't go to the hearing, to the court date, because he had a class.
Okay.
And then he took the car back, and he gave it to his stepfather, who sold it, according to him, for $4,500. Can I see the bill of sale?
The ones that he can't find.
Your last name is Mater?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I have a bill of sale, sir, with your signature on it, indicating that you sold this car to Joanna for $5,700.
I don't recall it being 57.
Well, why don't you take a look at this, sir?
Okay.
I don't remember it being that much either.
Obviously, this is a second-generated bill to sell with the price altered. I'm not a liar. I am a man of integrity. Have fun.
Listen, I don't have to get into all of this. You can sit down. I can understand why your father is angry with you. He made a gift to you. He was hoping that you would be able to use that gift and drive safely with that gift. And he didn't do it to line the pockets of anybody else, including taking care of the bills that you allegedly owed to your stepfather. He was trying to help you. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, is there any reason why you did that?
What, Your Honor?
Took a wonderful gesture and made it not wonderful anymore.
It wasn't a wonderful gesture, Your Honor.
No, it wasn't?
No, Your Honor.
Well, let me ask you this question, sir. Do you think that your father could have sold that car to somebody else? Put your hand down. Well, you sold it to somebody for $7,500. He sold it to somebody for $5,700. Don't you think your father could have sold it to somebody else for $5,000?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's an answer. Instead, he gave it to you. Write it off. Mr. Nelson, legally, I can't help you because the condition was that you get it back.
Is what it is.
You get it back if you join the Navy. Didn't join the Navy. He's not going to join the Navy. Unfortunate. Sometimes your best intentions are not necessarily.
His words were he signed up for the Navy in January.
I understand that.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you very much.
Good
Your
enough.
case is
Thank you.
dismissed. That's all. You owe him an apology.
That'll never happen.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It is what it is. Liars, cheats, and thieves. The whole family.
He can't handle the fact that he has no control.
The captain of the fire department is less than honest.
The judge tried to attack my character, which was wrong. I was truthful as much as I could remember.
He's using his position to get personal vendettas.
He's jealous that I am married to his wife and basically have taken his prized possessions.
I just don't like dishonest people.
This guy is definitely less than stable. I just hope for society's sake they take care of this guy.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lawler versus Fletcher, step forward.
Brittany Lawler claims ex-boyfriend Nathan Fletcher broke their apartment lease. Nathan says Brittany kicked him out after he spanked her son.
Miss Lawler, according to your complaint, you and the defendant lived together, signed a one-year lease in an apartment. You moved in, there were three of you. You, the defendant, and you have a child who's 6. You lived together and everything was pretty okay for a while, and then there was an incident involving your son. And the incident involving your son surrounded an eating tantrum that he had. And according to Mr. Fletcher, he threw a tantrum and Mr. Fletcher spanked him. After that, the two of you separated, never got back together again. Mr. Fletcher did pay the rent for a couple of months and then stopped. You want him to pay the last 3 or 4 months' rent because he signed the lease with you. Mr. Fletcher says that he really anticipated that you would be back together again, that you told him to leave, and that he's not going to pay any rent since you asked him to leave. Not only asked him to leave, you told him to leave. I believe in your answer, Mr. Fletcher, you say that her parents gave her an ultimatum. Either you left or they were taking her son.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that what happened?
No.
Well, we'll find out. If they did say that, it probably would have been the right thing to do. Mr. Fletcher.
Yes, ma'am.
There are certain given facts in this case. You signed a joint lease, which obligated you to pay half the rent. You did not pay half the rent for how many months? 3?
I believe so, yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes.
3 months. But for the other 7 months, you did. And what was your share of the rent?
$745 a month.
And yours was $745?
Yes, ma'am.
Where are you living now?
I'm still living there. The lease is not up yet, and I'm moving back in with my parents.
Who's paying the rent now?
I am.
From what?
I had to borrow money. I had to take out a personal loan with the bank in order to cover the rent.
Do you work?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Fletcher, tell me when you spanked her son.
It was evening of the 8th, Monday. Had cooked some dinner for him. Huh?
8th of what?
January. He was eating dinner, and all of a sudden, he just started having a little tantrum, and I told him to stop, spitting food all over the carpet, told him to go to his room, wouldn't comply, so I spanked him.
Why don't you just pick him up and put him in his room?
Didn't think about it.
How old is he?
He was 5 at the time.
Where did you spank him?
On his bottom.
What'd you use?
Back of my hand.
How many times did you hit him?
I hit him once.
Once?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right? I wasn't there. I'd have to take his word or my son's word, so.
Well, you don't have to take his word. What did your son say?
My son said that he had hit him very hard, so he was upset.
Is there any mark on him?
There was a little mark, yes.
You told your parents?
Yes.
And what happened?
When I saw it, I asked him, I said, you know what, you can't stay right now. This is not going to be a good situation. I don't know what's going to happen. I asked him to leave temporarily while he maybe did some parenting classes, maybe anger management or something to help cool things down and maybe fix the situation so that we could stay together.
So what do you want him to do?
I want him to fulfill his obligation and continue to pay the rest of the rent.
But he can't live there, Miss Lawler.
He can't live there because of his own behavior, because of his own actions.
I mean, I don't think if he hit, I'm not advocating Mr. Fletcher using corporal punishment on your child. Let's start with that. However, since you left him with your son in a position of parenting authority, there's a difference between corporal punishment and excessive corporal punishment. If Mr. Fletcher says he hit him once on the behind, and that's what he says, and you have no reason to dispute that, and if you told him to leave as a result of that, and he did not have the ability to stay in the apartment because of that, he shouldn't have to pay the rent.
He signed the lease, and because of his actions...
You move.
And how am I going to move with my son when everything in that apartment was mine?
Listen to me, Miss Lawler. That's a choice that you have. Instead of telling him to leave, say, listen, we have the following choices. We're both on this lease. I can't afford the rent because I'm not working. I'm going to move back with my parents. You can stay in the apartment. Or if I stay in the apartment, we have to do something with the lease. But you told him to leave.
It's temporary.
No.
Yes, it doesn't.
No, you gave him. No.
No.
My dear, temporary.
He left some of his stuff in the apartment, so he knew it was not permanent. I told him, you get some parenting classes, you do some counseling,
that
and you
has
can
nothing
come
to
back
do
in.
with the lease.
Yes, it does. It has everything to do with
Miss
the
Lawler,
lease.
has nothing to do with the lease, madam. He didn't sign a lease and sign on to take on parenting classes or anger management classes. That wasn't a condition of his
he did sign a
lease.
lease that he would fulfill his obligation to pay his rent for the entire year. It doesn't matter what happened. He has an obligation to finish paying the rent.
That's why you're here. He did, in fact, pay 2 months' rent when he wasn't living there.
Yes, because he said he would continue to pay the rent because it was his obligation.
And I'm telling you that you told him to leave.
I asked him to leave temporarily until the situation calmed down. Am I supposed to put my son and me in some situation
When is your lease? When is
where
your
we're
lease?
not comfortable?
Listen to me. When is your lease up?
My lease is up in the end of this month.
Well, you should have come to court earlier. I would have told you to go back to your parents earlier and told him to move back into the apartment.
What I have done? He can't pay the rent. We would have both still been on the lease, and we both still would be...
Miss Lawler, that's a what if. And what I'm telling you is the lease is up in 20 days. Instead of waiting 20 days, you should have sued him before. You should have gone in the first month that he said, I'm not paying any more rent.
I couldn't, because I had to go back every month.
And then I would have said to you, Miss Lawler, go home to your parents now. Mr. Fletcher, you go back to the apartment and continue to pay the rent.
He couldn't have paid the rent by himself. Either way, if he had stayed or I had stayed, it doesn't matter. We would still be in the same situation.
Miss Lawler, right now, he paid rent for 2 months in an apartment where
That
he was not
signed.
living. When he was not living. You threw him. Don't you get it?
I did not throw him out. I asked him to temporarily leave. That's not...
When did you invite him back?
I wouldn't invite him back had he not...
Just answer my question.
If you would let
When
me.
did you invite him? You said, I asked him to leave temporarily. When did you invite him back? On what date?
I told him he could come back when he took some counseling.
He doesn't have to do that,
Well,
madam.
then he doesn't have to continue the relationship with me. That was the circumstances. He knew that when he moved out, that he needed to get some help to continue the relationship so that he can move back in. It was not just the spanking of my son that started this. He has been unstable and yelling, screaming, accusing me of cheating. Every other week,
There's
he
a
would
whole other... Then you should have gone home to your parents earlier, Miss Lawler. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused when they step around.
Kicked me out.
Các em thân mến, chào mừng các em đến với bài học ngày hôm nay nhé. Trên bảng của cô là một bài toán, chúng ta cần tìm hai số tự nhiên M và N. Và chúng ta biết được là M và N mối tương quan gồm có hai biểu thức, đấy là A nhân 2 nhân M cộng cho 2 nhân N bằng 380 và M trừ N sẽ bằng 12. Khi mà nhìn qua hai cái biểu thức 1 và biểu thức 2 này thì các em sẽ thấy là nó sát về cái bài toán tổng hiệu, đúng không nào? Rồi đây chúng ta sẽ biết hiệu rồi thì chúng ta sẽ tìm tổng của M và N nữa, đúng không? Để tìm tổng và M và N thì chúng ta sẽ dựa vào cái biểu thức 1 là 2 nhân cho M cộng cho 2 nhân cho N. Đúng ạ, đây là biểu thức này. Biểu thức này chúng ta sẽ viết được rằng là ở đây chúng ta sẽ thấy có 2 là thừa số chung đúng không nào? Vậy thì chúng ta sẽ viết được 2 nhân cho m cộng n sẽ bằng 380 theo bài toán đã cho. Ở đây chúng ta sẽ rút ra được là m cộng n sẽ bằng 380 chia 2 sẽ bằng 190 đúng không nào? Và ở đây m trừ n trừ m sẽ bằng 12 đúng không ạ? Vậy thì ở đây chính là biểu thức tổng hiệu. Ở đây chúng ta sẽ tìm được hiệu của hai số thì n sẽ là số lớn hơn và m sẽ là số nhỏ hơn. Vậy thì n sẽ bằng tổng của tổng cộng cho hiệu chúng ta chia 2 và ở đây n sẽ bằng 190 cộng 12 là 202 chia 2 sẽ là 101 đúng không ạ? Từ đây chúng ta sẽ tìm được m luôn. M sẽ bằng 101 trừ đi 12 là 102 và trừ 12 thì sẽ bằng 90, nó thành 89. Đấy là kết quả của bài toán. Đấy là 190 cộng 12 là 2, 9 cộng 1 là 2, đúng không? Đó, và kết quả bài toán chúng ta là n sẽ bằng 101 và m bằng 89. Các em nhớ là ở đây chúng ta sẽ áp dụng cái tính chất kết hợp của phép nhân để chúng ta lọc ra được cái dữ liệu cần thiết cho bài toán, chính là tổng của hai số tự nhiên này. Tổng hai số tự nhiên này sẽ bằng 380 chia 2 và bằng 190. Dựa vào cái nội dung là tìm hai số, khi biết tổng hai số đó và hiệu hai số đó thì chúng ta sẽ tìm được 101 và 89.